Audio is hovering at minus 12 decibels. We're go.
I do want corruption. This ambassador that, everybody says is so wonderful, she wouldn't hang my picture in the embassy. She wouldn't hang it. She said bad things about me. She wouldn't defend me. Didn't want to hang my picture in the embassy. But I just want to let you know, this was not a baby that we're dealing with.
Mr. Burgundy, you are acting like a baby.
I'm not a baby. I'm a man. I am an anchor man.
Drop it. All right, power panel. Mark Thompson, John Iadarola. I'm Cenk Uygur. What's up, guys? How you doing?
How's it going? Very strong week. Big week.
Big week. Big, strong
flawless
week.
For the president, just as good as he could have hoped for.
He had a perfect week. Perfect week. He had a week surrounded by other weeks, other big weeks. Well, you're gonna hear from the idiot in chief in a second. So, God, he's unbelievable. Okay, you get it. But later in the program, look, every story is amazing, but Sacha Baron Cohen goes after Facebook, Google, and the others in the harshest imaginable language. I mean, he came in super hot and super strong, and I love the guy. It's going to be an interesting conversation about is he right, is he not, how right is he, etc. So I love that story. And then Indiana University with a difficult situation. They have a professor clearly over the top, racist, sexist, anti-LGBT. What do you do with him? He's got tenure. So it's fascinating. So lots and lots of amazing stories today. But we do start with the idiot in chief, not John, Donald Trump.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, he's ostensibly joining Fox and Friends to prove how innocent he is. We want to just quickly summarize what his appearance was like, as you'll see.
I do want always corruption. I say that to anybody.
So that's Trump on Fox and Friends. I don't think that's what he meant to say, but he was calling into his favorite show, and because he likes it, it's the most powerful news show on the planet, Fox and Friends. Nobody saw that coming years ago. But anyway, he joined them for, I believe it was a 53-minute interview.
Oh God.
During which he never stopped to breathe even once. But he's talking about the hearing, and they will get into some of the people that testified. But first off, what is the part of this story that Donald Trump remains most interested in? I'll show you right here.
The server, right, from the DNC, Democratic National Committee.
Who has the server?
Now, the FBI went in and they told him, get out of here, you're not getting it, we're not giving it to you. They gave the server to CrowdStrike or whatever it's called, which is a company owned by a very wealthy Ukrainian. And I still want to see that server. You know, the FBI has never gotten that server. That's a big part of this whole thing. Why did they give it to a Ukrainian company?
Are you sure they did that? Are you sure they gave it to Ukraine?
Well, that's what the word is. And that's what I asked actually in my phone call, if you know.
So I guess we've gotten used to a lot in the past few years, but that interaction right there, what Trump said, and then the media, like his favorite state media response to him, should be a time for reflection on the part of all Americans, how far we've fallen, that the president was just spreading conspiracy theories that when pressed by Steve Doocy, who he's not gonna go any harder against the president than, you sure that they did that, President? Trump's response was, that's the word. And what does he mean? He means that he saw it on, on Breitbart or on InfoWars or, like, it doesn't deserve any more respect than that. The president is spreading obviously false, many times debunked conspiracy theories on live television, and his favorite show isn't gonna push back any harder than, you sure about that?
But I do want to be fair to Fox and Friends. Why? No one will know. Can figure out. But seriously, like Doocy and Kilmeade had faces on like it felt like, no, what are you doing? No,
Doocy shifted in his chair at one point, like uncomfortably.
So when you have gone to a level of stupidity where you've made Doocy and Kilmeade uncomfortable, you're in a whole different level. They look at Kilmeade like, I don't know about that. I don't think that's right. Please stop saying that. please stop saying that. Making us really uncomfortable. Okay. But my two favorite parts, CrowdStrike or whatever it's called. Wait a minute. You're being impeached over this, okay? And you have this insane theory that no one else believes in, and you're putting it out on national TV, but you don't know what it's called? Like, his carelessness is astounding. Like, if you bother to come up with a conspiracy theory that is mental, and you're the president of the United States, and you're gonna say it on national TV, have a firmer grasp of what you're claiming it's called, okay? Unreal. And then they're like, are you sure about that? And he goes, well, that's what the word is. What the word from who? The word from who? You have at your access thousands of intelligence officials, and they're at your command. They serve at the pleasure of the president. You'd be like, hey, you know what? Can you tell me whatever that thing is called? And they'll tell you, right? Hey, can you tell me if the Ukrainians have it? And they'll tell you. And if you say to them, hey, where'd you get that information? They'll tell you. Instead of, I don't know, that's what the word is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in command of some of the most powerful investigative bodies on the planet. He can certainly run down this story. But he's desperate, of course, to serve up something that's related to Ukraine, right? And so that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to warm up whatever old conspiracy theory he might be able to tie to this Ukraine incident. And remember, this is right on the heels of the Fiona Hill testimony, which warned specifically about this kind of thing, about coming forward with these ridiculous theories that fly in the face of fact, but are swallowed by a lot of people.
Yeah, and just to be really clear, in case you're not familiar with the theory, but also the truth, CrowdStrike is not a Ukrainian company, it's a California company. The DNC didn't have a server that like you can pick up and hold and like give to someone. They had dozens and dozens of servers, some of them physical servers in a location, some of them cloud-based storage that they were using. All of the information from those was provided to the FBI, so he's just lying about them. Like the FBI busted in and like a guy grabbed the server and jumped out a window because he didn't want the CIA. It's all made up.
No.
It would be like if I said, like the internet's a series of tubes, and I've heard that the tube got clogged, and who clogged it? We're gonna find out. It's just such a ridiculous old person view of how tech works. How are you supposed to respond to that? He just lied in so many different ways.
First of all, John, please, not old person, boomer.
Okay, tech boomer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so there's so many things on that next level, right? It's on the cloud, but there are clouds in Ukraine, perfect clouds, big clouds surrounded by other clouds. It's in the cloud. How could it be in Ukraine? But there's no way he knows what the cloud is, let alone where it might be. And and its relationship to Ukraine. But guys, to John's point, and this is the most important one, we have a president of the United States who is clearly mentally unbalanced. I mean, he goes on national TV and says, "Oh, this Ukrainian company, it's based in Sunnyvale, California." I mean, all you have to do is ask anyone or a Google search or anything, but no homework, wild, insane lies, brazenly. It's a Ukrainian-based company. It's in Sunnyvale, right? So, I mean, okay, fine. I mean, again, I sometimes Andy gets mad at me if I address Republicans, but how you doing? You feeling proud? Are you tired of winning yet?
Yeah. But what I would say this, Cenk, I don't know if this kind of thing, and this is a great example of the sort of thing Cenk's talking about, where he's making up facts, is an example of him being imbalanced as much as it is how effective any narrative he throws out there with confidence and I take it your other point, which is that even the Fox and Friends people are like, yeah. Even though you're saying it with confidence, come on, Mr. President, we know it's not true. But there is a part of his audience that just is taking in whatever he's saying. And so they also don't do the homework, is what I'm saying. So I don't know how much of it is, certainly it's intellectual laziness and not knowing the facts, but I don't know how much of it is a mental imbalance and how much of it is just, hey, I'm gonna slam the hell out of this and there are a bunch of people who are gonna believe it.
Yeah, they're just gonna believe, there's gonna be no pushback. I mean, like, can you imagine, Cenk, like let's say in a couple of years, we're doing the show and Bernie's embroiled. He's president, he's embroiled in a controversy, he might be impeached, and he calls up the Young Turks and rants for 45 minutes straight. And we're just like glancing at each other like, oh, what is he talking about? Oh, it's conspiracy theories. Like, but yeah, good job, Bernie. We still support. We would never have to do that, but they're perfectly, like they're a little bit uncomfortable. They're shifting and everything, but they're not gonna not support him based on that. What a sad, low position they've been forced into.
So I remember when Bernie was on in 2016, and at one small window of time, and it happened to be when he was on the show, he was saying that the superdelegates should switch and vote for him, and that was at that point one of the few chances he had left because it was really late in the process. And I said to him, now that's not really principled, is it? Because that you had been saying the superdelegates shouldn't even count, right? And he's like, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he was like, that's true. Okay, so he was good enough to admit that. But we challenge even progressives that we really like, right? Let alone if Bernie were to come on and say, the Young Turks that are based in Ukraine. I'd be like, no, wait, we're based right here, right? No, of course we wouldn't let people lie like that. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And I mean, the best they could do on state TV was, are you sure?
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, look.
But their fans finished that segment believing that what Trump said was true.
And that's my point.
No, I got you guys, but I don't think it's a strategy as much as he's just pathological.
Yeah.
He can't help himself.
Well, actually, why don't we get to some more pathological lies? Because you mentioned it's weird that he doesn't know CrowdStrike when that's a part of the theory that he's pushing. That's not the only thing in this process he's not very familiar with. Turns out some of the main people testifying, he doesn't really know them either.
First of all, Volker, I don't know him. Don't know him. This guy, Sondland, hardly know him. I've had a couple of conversations with him. I see him hanging around, when I go to Europe. But he was really the European Union ambassador. And all of a sudden, he's working on this and, ask about that.
Oh God, the body language. I know you couldn't, maybe you can put it back up, but Kilmeade is like gripping his hand awkwardly, and you can see his eyes are like going around in circles. Like, he's like, give it a second. He starts to look up he's not looking at the camera.
Yeah, he's so uncomfortable.
Circles. Yeah, he doesn't know anyone. And it's Foodie Giuliani, I don't know. I have a lot of lawyers. I'm not really familiar with him. This guy Mike Pence is like a vice president. No, I'm president. That can't be right.
Yeah, Al Roker was part of it. I don't know anything about it. Yeah, it was a bizarre run through. What was I was going to say sort of surface take on everything, but what I love is always the last thing, which is once somebody who's his butt buddy, who's Sondland, has his number. They've exchanged a number of texts and personal conversations. As soon as he becomes part of the problem, barely know the guy, seen him a couple times hanging around.
Yeah, hanging around. Okay, so first of all, we keep going past things that every other president would have been derided for and they would have talked about for a year straight. So you don't know anyone in your administration?
Yeah.
I mean, he just comes out and bragging about like, my ambassador to the European Union, barely know the guy. I've seen him hanging around, I don't know what he does. He's your ambassador to the European Union. It's kind of a relevant position, right? Volker, never met him, don't know anyone in my government. All I do is talk to Hannity and then tweet it out. So then on Sondland, we've gone over this a million times. Sondland gave Trump $1 million. Now, if there's one thing Trump knows, it's people who give him $1 million. Okay. So that was for his inauguration. It wasn't to his pocket, but and he's a fellow hotelier, and so he knows Sondland. And we know through witnesses who testified, he was on the phone with Sondland, and the witness said he asked Sondland, "Hey, did the Ukrainians do the investigation?" So the idea that he's like Sondland. You know that he knows folks like Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, who were recently arrested. Those are Rudy Giuliani's goons. And he's like, I might have had a picture with them. I don't know them, but I might have had a picture with them. That means he knows them super well. And we found out later, he was having dinner with them. Okay, pathological.
Yeah.
So have at it if that's your guy.
Yeah, now Trump does appear to know Marie Yovanovitch, but what he knows is not necessarily positive. He has a particular grudge with her, and it has to do with interior decorating. Let's listen.
This ambassador that everybody says is so wonderful, she wouldn't hang my picture in the embassy, okay? She's in charge of the embassy. She wouldn't hang it. It took like 1.5 years or 2 years for her to get the picture up. She said bad things about me. She wouldn't defend me, and I have the right to change an ambassador. And Rudy didn't say good things, but he wasn't crazy about it. It wasn't like a major topic, but I have the right to change. This was an Obama person. Didn't want to hang my picture in the embassy. It's standard is you put the president of the United States picture in an embassy. This was not an angel, this woman, okay? There are a lot of things that she did that I didn't like, and we will talk about that at some time. Okay. But I just want to let you know, this was not a baby that we're dealing with.
There was the way he uses baby and dog in his metaphors, I can never really follow. Quick note, him saying we'll talk about that at some point is always a clue. He will never return to this topic again, ever. You'll never find out about it. Though things will be coming out soon, never comes out. But anyway, he has a huge issue with her.
To be fair, his investigators are still in Hawaii.
Exactly, they're gonna find that birth certificate. But yeah, so she wouldn't hang the picture, and here's the thing. My immediate knee-jerk thing to respond would be, yeah, that's a little bit weird. It's hardly a reason to dismiss an ambassador, even if you're allowed to. But I have a feeling that in a week, a small story will come out that no one will focus on, that the picture was up from day one. And he was just told that it wasn't, and he's always focused on that, probably.
Yeah, okay. What kind of a dictatorial move is it? Not an angel, didn't hang my picture. Literally the only damning evidence he had on an ambassador. Not an angel. Look, you're supposed to, I guess, hang the president's picture. Fine, no problem, okay? But if I was in a situation like that, the idea that I would get mad at someone because they didn't hang my picture, would you? Is that like, would you be like, oh, she's not a baby, she's not an angel, she wouldn't hang my picture? That's your best evidence against her? I mean, look, what planet are we on? I mean, can you imagine if Obama fired an ambassador for not hanging his picture? Now, in this case, of course, it's not true that that's why he actually fired her. He fired her because she was fighting corruption in Ukraine. But the fact that he thought it was a smart excuse to go on national TV and say, on the other hand, right? And remember, of course, he is obsessed with his own pictures. That's why Trump Charity he used proceeds from the charity to buy his own portrait 2 different times. He was cited for that and had to pay a giant fine. Okay, because he's obsessed with his own picture, because he also is clearly narcissistic. He has several deep psychological problems. But I want to get to the most relevant part, guys. So the guy's a lunatic, we get it, right? But if you notice there, he said, Rudy, I talked to him, but he wasn't a major factor. Wait. Why did he mention Rudy, and why is he even talking about that? You know why? Because one of the things that Rudy Giuliani is now being investigated about by Trump's Justice Department, by the way, is that he worked with Partisan Fruman to get Yovanovitch fired, and that they did that because a foreign government wanted them to do that.
Yeah.
Now that's Partisan Fruman have already been arrested, and Giuliani might be arrested. So it's a huge deal if the real reason that Yovanovitch was fired is that Rudy, who is Trump's personal lawyer, is getting paid by a foreign government or a foreign actor to get our ambassadors fired. That would be a massive scandal on top of all the other scandals, and we're in the middle of it. But he thinks he's dismissing it, going, Rudy wasn't a big factor. You just admitted he was a factor, big or small. You admitted he talked to you, that you knew that Rudy wanted her fired. You just said it on national TV. He can't stop admitting crimes on TV.
Well, and the basic law of Trump opposites, which is that, of course, he did whatever he says he didn't do, and he didn't do whatever he says he did do. That applies here with Giuliani, right? And Giuliani had a big role. And just to put a button on the picture thing, that's how Giuliani, and it's a genius way to do it, got Trump so anti-Yovanovitch because he mentioned the picture thing. That is a way to light a fire under Trump, because that says it all. Stop right there. She's been fighting putting my picture up in the embassy. Get rid of her. She's an Obama holdover, and so on. So there's a lot going on there, and yes, I think all roads lead to Giuliani, and it is a huge scandal. I mean, it may be lost in all the other scandals, but it's a big one coming.
Yeah, I think both Giuliani and Barr need to be tied more closely to this, but we'll see if they actually have to testify. Yeah, the picture thing, I think from an outside perspective seems really shallow and ridiculous, but it would be very effective against Trump. And for him to cite it on Fox News, I think for his audience, it will be very effective because like we've said many times, there's nothing more important than loyalty to the leader, and her not putting up that picture, it's all about symbols with the right. They love to say that they don't like identity politics and all that, but they love their symbols of loyalty to the strong man. And so I think there's nothing worse she could have done than refuse to put that picture up.
But let me disagree with you guys a little bit about the big picture. Like, I know we always go back to his base holds, and I've seen some a new polling about head-to-head matchups with Democrats, and he's actually, and I have to confess, I thought he'd be way lower than he is right now in head-to-head matchups, and he's not. He's winning in some of the states, so I'll own up to that. But let's see how it goes. But my sense of it now is this is a different level. I think he's sliding away. I think that when they started challenging the military and being so enormously detached from what people can see with their own eyes on television. It's a different thing, somebody wrote a 400-page report. Ain't nobody reading that report. So Trump can come out and say, it was about how I rode on a unicorn to save Mars. And they'd be like, of course it was, he said it, right?
Sounds cool.
But when there's people on television going, okay, this is what happened, and all the Republicans come out and say the opposite, people start to go, look guys, and it's in the polling too. 70% believe he did do it on Ukraine.
Yeah.
And 51% think that we're also skating by like giant in numbers. Like if any other president had a number that was 51% think he should be impeached and removed from office, like everybody would be packing bags, it'd be over. Right, but here we are. Yes, so far the Republican politicians are holding.
Yeah.
But I think he's even going to start to lose some of his base. This is really bad and really detached from reality.
The last thing I would say quickly on that, Cenk, is that on this, they will try, I suspect, to spin this as Rudy going rogue, and and they'll try to keep the stink off of Trump on this. That would be the spin I would anticipate anyway.
Yeah, and according to a report it was from him, so maybe he's lying, but Giuliani yesterday on Glenn Beck's show said he's still talking to Ukrainian politicians about getting this investigation going.
That's right, he said
he's still doing it. Yeah, so anyway, we have two more videos that we really should get to. In this next one, he has a little bit to say about Adam Schiff, and take a look at what he stops himself from saying.
Well, there's only one person I want more than Where's Hunter, and that is Adam Schiff. I want to put that guy with his way.
What's your first question for Adam Schiff?
I almost said something that might have been slightly controversial.
Yes.
I didn't just say I'm learning. See that, Steve? I'm learning. But after all these years, I finally learned. But
so they all start smiling and laughing when he says with Adam Schiff, I want to put that guy with his way. And then he stops himself from saying that something that even he acknowledges would be what, offensive or threatening, or what does he mean by that? I want to put that guy by his way that makes them all awkwardly smile when he stops himself from continuing.
Oh, I thought you guys had the answer. I couldn't decipher it.
No, I literally didn't know what he meant.
I
would tell you if I knew.
To me, it sounded threatening. I want to put that guy. I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, I want to put that guy away. I want to.
Oh, I see. You think put that guy away? Is that what
put that guy underground? I don't know. We don't. He stopped himself, so I guess kudos for the only restraint he's ever shown on in his entire life.
And no Steve Ducey to say, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to stop. What exactly were you gonna do to Adam Schiff, one of the guys investigating you in this impeachment hearing? But no, we don't know.
But he sounds, as many people have pointed out accurately, he sounds like a mob boss. The guy I want to get even more is Adam Schiff. I'll tell you what I want to do to him. Oh, we're on TV.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're the president?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there's one last video. This does not have to do with the impeachment hearing, but it's just an idea of when he gets going. It's very much like his rallies. He goes from topic to topic. He says crazy things. Here's an example.
Things, you can break through. We have the wall is electrified so that if anyone touches it, we know exactly what's happening. We can get there within minutes. No, we built.
You electrified the wall?
We're building a fantastic wall, and without the wall now.
I don't know what he's talking about.
That was the best. That was
No,
pretty strong.
in the middle of the clip, I swear to God, I turned to John and was like, is it electrified? It's not electrified.
No, Kilby did the same thing you did. You electrified the wall?
You electrified it, and Ducey at one point says, sure.
It's not electrified.
Because they know they're talking to a crazy person. What is he talking about? The whole thing, if you press it, it contacts the hive mind and they know where you are. Is that a weird way of saying that there's drones or there's surveillance or there's cameras? Is he speaking metaphorically? Is he becoming a poet? I don't know what that means.
John, the hive mind is in Ukraine. They won't let the FBI get it. And if I ever get my hands on them or Adam Schiff, wait, I'm not gonna say it.
I don't know what that is. Anyway, there's other stuff. That's enough.
It's enough.
Can't take anymore.
Well, you gotta give him credit. He is electric.
You electrified the wall? It ain't boring.
What?
You electrified the wall? Oh my God.
I mean, look at how much we're laughing at the President of the United States. How unbelievably, mortifyingly embarrassing.
Yeah.
And to me, what will always be more embarrassing, and later people will pretend that they didn't support Trump, but that 30% of this country would get all the way up to 45. We never really got much past 45. But I'll forgive the 15% that were like, I don't know, there's a good economy and I never pay attention to the news, right?
Right.
But 30% of the country thought that this madman was a great leader.
Yeah.
Later they'll deny it when he's in a mental institution. But the guy, we can all see it. We're seeing it right now as it's happening. You can come back to this video, as apparently people like to do, and see. No, they knew at the time. They clearly knew at the time the guy had completely lost his mind.
Yeah. First break?
Yes, we'll be right back.
You know, old school's pitched to me from Jank. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben, Jank.
This is my problem with Forever 21. This is like a really cool turtleneck. Like it looks nice, it looks soft, it looks professional. I can wear it to work. And then you pick it up and turn it around and the back says taco booty. And it's like, what?
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
She was like, does mom know you curse that much?
And I was like, I didn't curse at all in the movie. I played Silent Bob.
Yeah, right.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
We're in Hollywood.
I
Raise
know,
your
right?
hand if you're not a vegan.
Okay.
See, nobody.
He's like Kevin with Ben Affleck. He's like afraid to text me.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yeah. But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the you said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m.
I don't mean to get upset.
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps fucking cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
There's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Heard of it? I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not fucking, Ben Mankiewicz.
Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
But I imagine you could be famous and not give a shit. But it's tough to be a human and not give a shit.
We gotta let the podcast guys go to tyt.com/join to become a member, get the whole show. And now it's just the three of us.
That's it.
Okay,
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
He's a bad neighbor.
Neighbors know I'll be watching.
We're always
Please
gonna
tell
be.
me you do not waste your wife's time with this ridiculously stupid argument.
The Bad News Bears is a movie that taught an entire generation how to not win, how to lose gracefully.
See, I watch movies.
Kingsley.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Craig starts laughing, I can't stop. We're out of time. So
Are we?
Yeah, I know.
That was 90?
Yeah.
I was just getting started.
And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com join and free trial. And old school with the old folks.
Good
John,
night.
come back.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Bernie Sanders wants to break Wall Street, and he wants to break it real bad.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. I thought I was supposed to do that. But anyway, I want to let you know that not only do we have the rest of this show, it'd be weird at this point to just cut it off. We usually do the full 2 hours. But we also have some shows next week, but for Thursday and Friday, because it's the holiday, we have something special lined up for you. So we have a series of Thanksgiving specials. Some are like special content, some are highlights of things that we've done throughout the year that we've put together for you. In addition, that's on Thursday and Friday. For our members, we put together something even more special. That will be available Thanksgiving morning on tyt.com under the special coverage. Sign up to become a member at tyt.com/join. You'll find out what that is Thursday, Thanksgiving morning.
Okay, I got comments for you guys. True North remembers. Hey, is that you?
That is. I barely remember at this point.
Check that out. Yes, Trump also has the right to remain silent. Maybe he should make use of that more often. Yeah. Good point. Peter Gill says Trump thinks that the truth is what he thinks is true. That's all there is. I think that that's probably right. Yeah. Gabby Marita says, what really saddens me is that there will probably be schools named after Trump. There are elementary schools named after Richard Nixon, so I wouldn't put it past someplace in the South to name one after this thin-skinned man baby. Could you, that would be the most ironic school ever. In the school, would they only have to show pictures? You don't have to read past the page. You only have to
no assigned reading.
Yeah, no books at all.
Yeah.
And every essay has to be 280 characters. Not any longer. Anyways, Sees the Meme says, Jesus, Trump was phone yelling so loudly in the Fox and Friends interview that I had to turn down the volume on my phone. Of course, and he continued, of course, aides could hear him through Sondland's phone. Yeah. So that's a good point. Yeah. Nick is America's fastest hippie writes in on Twitter. Young Turks started watching a show on Pluto while I was in the hospital on my phone, going to become a member. Oh, that's awesome, thank you.
That's awesome.
TYT.com/join, home of progressives.
And you'll get access to that special Thanksgiving morning content.
That's exactly right, and John's show Damage Report.
Exactly.
Okay, real quick, YouTube super chats. The Sick Rose says, I'm burning up. We're gonna get to Bernie in a second. Dramatic news there, very good news. Charcoal Knee writes in, I was so happy to hear Bernie say what happened in Bolivia was a coup. USA needs to address its past and ensure that it will no longer interfere. By the way, if you haven't seen Ryan Grimm's hard-hitting interviews in the spin room, showing me up, doing better journalism than I do. Okay, anyway, check that out.
I hear he didn't put your picture up.
Could you imagine? Grimm, I don't know about him. He wouldn't put my portrait up. And they're showing me up by doing better reporting. Anyway, TYT.com/join, become a member, you can get it. You could also probably see those interviews on YouTube. And last one, Adriana Castle say, hey Turks, who do you think would be a good VP pick for Bernie? I'm thinking Ro Khanna. Ooh, wow, interesting.
I don't think it'd be Ro Khanna. I like Ro, but I don't think it'd be Ro Khanna.
I have thoughts, but I'll save it for later.
A lot of people say Nina Turner. I think that's a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Nina Turner. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Why don't we jump into some good news? Profile some legislation that could actually help people out. Representative Ilhan Omar has released details of her new green housing plan. Here she is announcing some of her approach.
One of the first things I noticed when I came to the United States were people sleeping on the side of the streets. And I have been on a mission ever since to make sure that there are no humans left in that situation. Today, I'm excited to introduce the Homes for All Act, which will fulfill the promise of a homes guarantee by building 12 million new public housing and private, permanently affordable rental units, fastly expanding the available affordable housing stock, driving down costs throughout the market, and creating a new vision of what public housing looks like in the United States of America. We will prohibit any discrimination against residents based on sexual orientation, gender, and criminal history or immigration status. The bill also creates a new anti-displacement fund with HUD in order to protect families from gentrification, prevent displacement, and stabilize neighborhoods. And it makes public housing a mandatory part of our budget, like Social Security and Medicare. All of this will be built to the highest environmental standards, making this a key part of the Green New Deal.
And I'm glad that she focused on that. This is considered to be a public housing component of the Green New Deal. Residences, real estate does contribute quite a bit to our overall warming.
So I want to talk about the scope of the problem. There are now more US households that rent than at any point since 1965. So obviously part of the problem is housing costs too much. And it's not just in the big cities, in rural areas as well. There's now a growing homelessness problem in South Dakota. So we desperately need more housing in this country, and she's trying to do it in a way that is both ambitious, but also realistic and environmentally conscious. So it hits a lot of birds with one stone. But this is the stat that really stunned me. A renter working 40 hours a week and earning the federal minimum wage can afford a 2-bedroom apartment in how many counties across the nation? So you're getting the federal minimum wage, just a 2-bedroom apartment. I mean, you're not gonna be able to get it in New York or San Francisco, that's obvious, right? So how many counties can you get a 2-bedroom apartment in that situation working 40 hours a week? Zero. Not a single county in the country. The federal minimum wage is $7.25. It's a little over $15,000 a year. You cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment anywhere in the country. That's amazing. So what progressives are doing, and I love that they're going in this direction, is pointing out the real problems of Americans and trying to fix them. That is what your representatives are supposed to do. So meanwhile, the Republicans are like, I don't know, another tax cut for the rich? I'm not kidding. Donald Trump, in one of his last-ditch proposals, kept talking before the impeachment began. He's like, another tax cut for the rich? And that tax cut that he was contemplating would have actually given a higher percentage of the money to the rich than even the last $2 trillion tax cut.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Whereas this actually helps real people. So the only thing that they ever have in these scenarios is they're like, oh, I don't know how we're gonna pay for that. Taxes for the rich? No problem, can pay for it anytime. Oh, you wanna help real Americans and create 12 million homes? How are we gonna pay for that? So that's all they got. So this would actually help real Americans.
No, that's a great point. The last thing you said is also so true, which is all they got is the tax cut for the rich, and it'll trickle down to those people who need housing and all the other things that are now becoming so elusive in America. This Green New Deal, I get into these tug of wars with people over all the time, but I just think it's full of goals and ideals that have to be reflected in the future. Otherwise, there is no future. I love everything that's wrapped in this, including the environmental side.
Yeah. So it really should be pointed out one other part of the bill. It repeals the Fair Cloth Amendment. It was passed in 1999. If you were wondering what that is, don't worry. Not a lot of people know about it. What it did was it stopped funding public housing. So they cut off funding of building new housing, but on top of that, they severely limited what we could spend to upkeep that housing. So now all that public housing has been in great decline because we can't spend any money to just do simple repairs and do upkeep, et cetera. And then the Republicans turn around and go, look at public housing. You see, it's in decrepit shape. Yeah, that's because you cut off the funding.
Yeah.
So this would restore that so that it would give the current public funding a fair chance to make situations there a lot more livable. And again, since it helps poorer Americans, the Republicans have no interest in it at all. But by the way, it's not just Republicans. As HuffPost points out, centrist Democrats, of course, also opposed to this plan. Because it wouldn't help their donors at all. These people in public housing don't donate to them ever. So they're like, why would we support that?
Yeah.
I also think that Cenk's point about the public housing situation and losing funding is an important one for the general thing they do. I mean, you really find it a lot. They defund federal programs and then point to what a failure they are. This is a real move that you find on the right and among the GOP. And as Cenk says, even frankly, under some moderate Democrat leadership, that can lead to the privatization and even the elimination of a lot of federal programs.
Yeah. And I just want to say one final thing, and it's I want to focus on the first thing that Representative Omar said in that video. We've grown accustomed to so much in this country, and compared to the experience of people who live in places like Norway and other parts of Europe, she grew up in Somalia, it's a war-torn region. They had to go to refugee camps, and then finally they get the chance to emigrate to the US. And the first thing she noticed as a child who's been through all of that hell is there's a lot of people sleeping on the side of the streets in America. The richest country in the history of the world.
Yeah, I thought it was powerful. I mean, the sense I got was she was basically saying, America gave me a home, and now it's my turn to return the favor. And that's super powerful. Yeah. And that's what's the best of America.
Okay, we do have to take our second break, but when we come back, Sacha Baron Cohen with a really powerful speech goes on the offensive against people like Mark Zuckerberg after this.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in it.
Yay, crunch berries!
And I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, I don't know, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years, believing that it was actual berries.
Yeah, she's like, these aren't real berries at all. Yeah. I'm like, I got news for you, Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person.
Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really, the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you got to force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to green with Aspiration's fossil fuel-free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Cenk Uygur joins us.
We are progressive and unapologetically so. Very happy to say that millennial and Gen Z generations are massively progressive along with us.
Democrats, they've been so weak for so long. For God's sake, fight for your side. I would not like to compromise with Republicans. I would like to defeat them. Lynn, do you support Donald Trump?
Yes, I like Donald Trump.
Well, that's why we think you're racist.
The 5 black kids in Central Park did not commit the rape. He said, who cares? Keep them in prison anyway. They probably did something. He's a terrible guy. Very fine people on the side chanting, Jews will not replace us. He says we should ban all Muslims. Well, that's bigotry by definition. He said it during the campaign trail over and over again. Called Latinos criminals and rapists. See, you're used to Republicans being strong on television and Democrats cowering. New day in America. Progressives, we actually fight back.
Back on TYT, time for just 2 comments. This was fun. J Rocks writes in, hey, Mark Thompson, I walked into a room and swear I heard you on TV. So I hit rewind and there you were, buddy, in Day After Tomorrow as news report on climate change. So cool.
Yes,
I
that's
didn't know
right.
that.
Yes, some of my best work. Thank you very much.
But I love that.
That's cool.
TYT viewers can recognize your voice. On voice alone, they're like, that's Mark Thompson. Rewind.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome. And then Danny asked a tantalizing question. Who should be Senate leader and House Speaker in 2020 if Bernie wins? Drums. So I don't know that he gets to decide that, but it's an interesting question for another time.
Yeah, and all the conversation I hear online is, what will Speaker Pelosi do under the next president? I thought, wait, why is it a foregone conclusion that she would continue to be the speaker? It just is, I guess, but why would that be? Seems a little weird. It's democracy, you can have an election. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Listen to what Sacha Baron Cohen had to say about some of the negative impacts of social media and the way dishonest political actors have been using it.
Today,
Around the world, demagogues appeal to our worst instincts. Conspiracy theories, once confined to the fringe, are going mainstream. It's as if the age of reason, the era of evidential argument, is ending, and now knowledge is increasingly delegitimized and scientific consensus is dismissed. Democracy, which depends on shared truths, is in retreat, and autocracy, which depends on shared lies, is on the march. Hate crimes are surging, as are murderous attacks on religious and ethnic minorities. Now, what do all these dangerous trends have in common? I'm just a comedian and an actor, I'm not a scholar, but one thing is pretty clear to me. All this hate and violence is being facilitated by a handful of internet companies that amount to the greatest propaganda machine in history.
I mean, going in, like I've liked his work for a long time, but going into that speech, which I watched in its entirety, and you totally should. We've got a little bit more. I was very impressed with his analysis of the intersection of a number of different problems, and he's very much right there. In a little bit, we're going to show you he goes directly after Mark Zuckerberg, but you already have a basic idea of what he thinks about Facebook, Twitter, and all of that.
Okay, first of all, I got to say respect. He seems to really understand technology. Okay, old school Ali G references, but anyways, no, I love the guy, love him. Like, not only is he super smart, which if you've ever seen him speak on this issue or any other issue, you would know, but also deeply compassionate. He gave $1 million to make sure that refugees were taken care of, Muslim refugees were taken care of, and so the speech here is. Speaking at an event called Never Is Now for the Anti-Defamation League. So this guy is phenomenal. Now, his indictment of those platforms is a really interesting conversation we'll get into in a little bit. But so far, unquestionably interesting, brilliant analysis that is worthy of serious debate.
Yeah, we can say more as we get into it, but clearly he's identified the problem. At this juncture in this conversation, he's identified what is clearly correct, which is that there's a tremendous amount of propaganda being generated on these platforms.
Yeah, and like I said, he goes directly after Mark Zuckerberg, so why don't we turn to that now?
Let's think about it. Facebook, YouTube, and Google, Twitter, and others, they reach billions of people. The algorithms these platforms depend on deliberately amplify the type of content that keeps users engaged. Stories that appeal to our baser instincts and that trigger outrage and fear. It's why YouTube recommended videos by the conspiracist Alex Jones billions of times. It's why fake news outperforms real news, because studies show that lies spread faster than truth. And it's no surprise that the greatest propaganda machine in history has spread the oldest conspiracy theory in history, the lie that Jews are somehow dangerous.
And he returns to that topic several times. We'll get to the Zuckerberg in just a minute, but again, just very consistently good analysis.
So off the air, before we got to that story, we happened to be talking about that same thing, and I literally called it the oldest conspiracy theory during the break.
Yeah.
Because Glenn Beck had done a segment where he had George Soros, and he literally called him puppet master and had him pulling the strings. Oldest stereotype in world history, right? So deeply, deeply anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And so that stuff is being spread around. And so, and
that was yesterday, by the way. That wasn't, I mean, not that it would be okay in 2007 or something, but that wasn't like back in his heyday. He's still doing that. That was the program where the president's personal lawyer joined him.
That's unbelievable, unbelievable. Okay, so I can't believe that anybody would work there. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. So now, in terms of their responsibility, well, that's so interesting because I'm afraid that if you just watch that part, it makes it seem like Facebook and Google, et cetera, favor lies or favor conspiracy theories. No, what they're doing, and I'm trying to be fair, and by the way, I have a conflict I should tell you guys about. YouTube, Facebook are our biggest partners, okay? So I wanna be clear about that. But what they're doing is they're serving up what people want, whatever they watch longer and what they're more attracted to. So in a sense, there are real problems with the algorithm. Ramesh Srinivasan, who's on the show all the time, talks about it. He wrote a book called Beyond the Valley, and that there's some of the cultural assumptions of the people who create the algorithm that affects culture throughout the world. It's a really interesting critique of those platforms. On the other hand, what the algorithm is basically doing is serving as a mirror and saying, here, I'll give you what you like. And so part of the problem is humanity. And I think we have to be cognizant of that. It's not like, I don't want people to get the wrong impression. In my opinion, there aren't people at Facebook and Google going like, let's put something really evil in here. They're not like Glenn Beck, where they're like, okay, put in a thing in the algorithm. If they find it, they'll know that the Jews are the puppet master, right? No, there's no plan like that. It's just that the algorithm rewards what people are passionate about. And sometimes that's fantastic and sometimes it's terrible.
But the algorithm does take you to some of the most toxic stuff out there. And he does go on. I watched the entire thing as well. I really recommend it, as John says. It's really worth a watch, not long. He explains that. He explains that the way it's set up, even if it's just raw algorithmic laboratory stuff, it takes you to some of the most toxic philosophies that are on any platform.
Yeah, and I guess I agree with you that I don't think that they've purposefully put something evil into the algorithm, but like, so Dr. Frankenstein didn't set out to create a monster, but when he realized it was a monster, he had to do something about it. They know that they've created a monster and they're saying, it's not on us. Free speech or something, I don't know, I'm not gonna do anything. Yes, I've created something evil, but it doesn't bother me. And while it doesn't bother me and while I'm just gonna stand back, I'm raking in money based on my inaction for dealing with what I created. It's at best case scenario, it is amoral and they're profiting off of something horrendous continuing.
Wait, profiting off of something that's amoral. I believe that you just described all corporations. They don't have any morality.
Yeah, but I would argue that because they're far bigger than most corporations, because they reach more people, it's even worse when they do it.
No, I understand that, but guys, what I'm afraid of is if you take that argument to its logical extreme, all you're gonna do is go back to the establishment media. So you're gonna put in so many guardrails that we're gonna go back to the era of acceptable thought.
That is the danger. That is absolutely the danger, without question. Even I found myself, because I think you've got to rein this beast in. But even I started thinking, as Cenk has just pointed out, which is, okay, you start reining it in, where are you going to end up? And he makes an effective argument. They really need to do something there, Cenk. They have so much money. It seems as though it's not a lot to ask for some of those resources to be directed to reining in some of this toxic beast.
Well, maybe he gets into that in the next clip. Let's go to the portion where it focuses a little bit more on Facebook.
Zuckerberg tried to portray this whole issue as choices around free expression. That is ludicrous. This is not about limiting anyone's free speech. This is about giving people, including some of the most reprehensible people on earth, the biggest platform in history to reach a third of the planet. Freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. Mark Zuckerberg seemed to equate regulation of companies like his to the actions of the most repressive societies. Incredible. This from one of the 6 people who decide what information so much of the world sees. Zuckerberg at Facebook, Sundar Pichai at Google, at its parent company, Alphabet, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, Brin's ex-sister-in-law, Susan Wojcicki at YouTube, and Jack Dorsey at Twitter. The Silicon Six. All billionaires, all Americans who care more about boosting their share price than about protecting democracy. This is ideological imperialism. 6 unelected individuals in Silicon Valley imposing their vision on the rest of the world, unaccountable to any government and acting like they're above the reach of law. It's like we're living in the Roman Empire and Mark Zuckerberg is Caesar. At least that would explain his haircut.
Yeah, that's a good line. So look, now he is laying out the problem. We might disagree on exactly how you should deal with it, but I think that most of us can agree that what they're currently doing is, I think it's fair to say, self-serving, and it's minimal. They're not doing much. I mean, where do you draw the line? I don't know, you've got billions of dollars. Maybe you could experiment a little bit. I would start at the very least by actually enforcing the rules that you have, which they don't do, or they change them when they're called out. This whole thing about allowing politicians to lie in ads, originally they had restrictions on that. And when people, including Judd Legum, showed that no, you're allowing Trump to lie over and over, they just got rid of the standards altogether. They say that you can't have sort of bot networks of Facebook pages promoting all of your content automatically. Daily Wire is doing that right now. They've got 14 massive pages with huge reach that the only content they put out is spreading the content of Daily Wire. It's explicitly against the rules as they stand right now. That was pointed out to them. They don't do anything because they don't want to offend the right wing. And then they lie about it. Zuckerberg, it was revealed, had a meeting last month with Donald Trump, I believe Peter Thiel, but definitely Donald Trump. And that's during this time where we're talking about his approach to Trump's advertising. Did he reveal that he was having secretive meetings with Donald Trump? No, and he's profiting mightily while this is going on.
So people are gonna misinterpret me saying, on the other hand, as me not agreeing with Sacha Baron Cohen. That's not the case. Now, normally on talk shows, and I do this very, very often, strong opinions, I'm positive about certain things, right? On this one, I'm really not sure. I think it's a very difficult problem. But I will say, I think that the larger issues, I think we're kind of missing, or we've got the wrong focus. The larger issues that corporations have now become the new nation state. So they're unaccountable to almost all the governments. They've captured the United States government completely through campaign donations, and they've captured many other governments. So that's why they're all unaccountable. We're just seeing the ramifications of Facebook and Google, et cetera, more because they're more part of our lives. We almost never interact with ExxonMobil. We almost never interact with the other giant companies that have taken control of our government. So, and we have no rules to rein in corporations. We only wrote one line of code for them: maximize profit. That's the core of the problem. It's just that when you take it into social media, it creates these other ailments that we can see with our own eyes. So I wish we would go and tackle that problem, because I think it would fix a lot of other issues first, and then that would also affect Facebook, Google, et cetera. And I also don't want to get into the demonization. And here again, I'll admit a bias. I at least know Susan from YouTube. There's no, look, it's my best guess, and you can say, hey, you know her, so you're full of crap, or whatever it is, right? Perfectly lovely person. There's no crazy hidden agenda of like, I will control the world, and I'll drive people to the to the wrong places for wrong purposes. No, look, Facebook appears on the surface to be incredibly right wing, right? But I don't see that at the other companies. It's much harder to discern.
Twitter's got some problems with.
Yeah, I hear you. It's just harder to discern. We don't really know, right? And I've never sensed that in my interactions. Again, I might be biased because we have a relationship. On the other hand, if I thought there was a bias, I'd be the first guy yelling about it, right? And you all know that. And so I think, and they're in a very difficult spot. So that leads to the second larger problem, which is we have an imbalance in this country where one party lies all the time. But even the mainstream media, I mean, you want to criticize Facebook and Google, I hear you, it's a really fair debate. But how about the New York Times and Washington Post that takes Republican lies and equates them to things that are true? I can't tell, Republicans say this, Democrats say that. Now on Trump, they've been better. But during the Iraq war, during the Bush era, during the enhanced interrogations, during Mitch McConnell's reign throughout all this time, I can't tell who's doing the obstruction. It's 50-50, I'm neutral, right? Well, then you equated lies to the truth, and that is terribly damaging. So there are larger issues at hand that I think are bigger cancers. That doesn't mean they don't affect Facebook and Google, they do. And it doesn't mean that those companies aren't also contributing in other ways to the problems. But I don't think the answer is simple. And I think if we just say, like, okay, rein people in, who and how? It's really hard. Yeah. That's my sense of it.
No, even discerning the lies is hard, because most of the lies, or certainly a bulk of the lies, exist in a gray area. So it is hard. I guess all I was saying before is, and I think all that Sacha Baron Cohen is saying, it sounds like John's saying a flavor of it as well, is devote some resources to it and try to solve that riddle. It is going to be hard, and you may make a mistake, but try to solve it. The other thing I would say is, Cenk is 100% right about something. We noticed this, but the media mergers and the corporatocracy merger mania that occurred late 20th century and early this century, that has created a handful of beasts. So if you're going to tackle these guys, you also have to go after the other corporate beasts. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and last thing is, look, even if I disagree with parts of what Sacha Baron Cohen is saying, I deeply respect him for bringing up this really important issue that we should all have a national and even international conversation about and come to some sort of conclusion. Because right now, yes, there are things that go bump in the night, and certainly on the internet, and we're all throwing our hands up and going, I guess there's nothing that can be done about it. Maybe that is the answer, but maybe it's not. And we should all, make a concerted effort to figure out what can be done.
Yeah, but definitely go watch the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're gonna do one story really quick. Okay, the Bernie story. Okay,
that should be quick. 15 minutes and we're out. Okay.
No.
Okay. If you haven't been watching the Democratic primary polling, you might not have noticed yet, but you might soon that we've had a bit of a shifting in the order. We know that Joe Biden still at a comfortable first for several months now. Elizabeth Warren's been in second, but here comes Bernie. On Friday, Sanders retook the second spot with an average of 19.3% compared to Warren's 18.5%. And if you want to look at this over time, this is the Real Clear Politics polling average. There's lots of lines, it's very confusing. But on the right, you see Biden is in green, Bernie is in blue, Warren is in brown. And you have to go back to, it looks like September, for when there'd been a period of months of Sanders and Warren sort of neck and neck in the polling. Then she jumped up, narrowly catching Biden. And now Bernie has, after that couple of months, he has retaken second place.
So I see a couple of really clear trends there. And then I'll get to even better news for Bernie. Look, you could all see it with your own eyes. It's not just a Warren and Sanders trend. To be fair to Joe Biden, he's still shockingly high in the national polls.
Yep.
In fact, even as Bernie is now caught and passed Elizabeth Warren is in second place, Biden still has a 10.5-point lead on him. And now there's also a dichotomy that you really got to focus on, which is, those are the national polls, but we don't vote nationally in the primaries. We vote state by state. And people do gain momentum when they win states. That's an indisputable fact of American politics. And right now, to be fair, Buttigieg is peaking in Iowa and New Hampshire. Those are the first two states. And in the last set of polls, he is pretty much a clear #1 in Iowa and New Hampshire. So that is an amazing and fascinating development. So for all of Warren and Sanders consistently being in the top 3, and you can see it in that line. People are constantly talking about Klobuchar and Kamala Harris, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is those top 3 have been in the top 3 way above the others for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And if you watch cable news, you might not get that sense at all. I mean, Bernie's been dismissed 100 times over, and there's all this talk about a Klobuchar run. I don't know about all this talk, but there's all these establishment candidates that have gotten a lot of airtime that their polling did not merit.
Yeah.
So that's also clear. But what you can't see in that poll, that graph, because it's just a national poll, is Buttigieg's rise. He's now in purple, and you see a little bit of a rise in the national numbers, and also very important, he's clearly past Kamala Harris. She's on her way down, he's on his way up. And the other thing that's obvious is everybody else is done. I mean, they're not gonna all of a sudden jump and catch the top 3. So
here comes Booker.
Well, I don't know about that. But so whether we agree or disagree with these different politicians, Biden is still a force to be reckoned with nationally and in places like South Carolina where he has a huge lead. And now, by the way, another thing I was wrong about, I thought once Biden lost the lead, he'd never regain it. But he did, for a brief period, lose it to Warren, and he did regain it. In fact, in Nevada, Bernie took the lead and Biden regained that lead. So this is a fascinating race. A completely unpredictable race. The establishment that thought Bernie was out was totally wrong. But to be fair, when I thought Biden would be a goner, he hasn't been. So I've been wrong about that. So it is amazing. Okay, now having said all that, the last poll out, Emerson, Bernie now tied for #1. Okay, so it's just one poll. What you just saw on the graph is a combination of polls. But Bernie now in the last one tied with Biden at 27. They're the two clear leaders nationally. And I'll add my anecdotal sense of it, and that has been at times right, is that wherever I go in the country, it feels like there's a progressive surge for Bernie. So most noticeably, I talked about recently the California Democratic Convention. That convention, when I went 2 years ago, was about 25% progressive, 75% establishment. It was like, oh look, the progressives are here, right? Just 2 years later, wall to wall Bernie, wall to wall Bernie. So the closer we get to the election, the more it feels like progressives are coming back home to Bernie. So interesting development.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say, hey, be fair to Buttigieg. He is, and don't underestimate him. He's doing really well in New Hampshire and Iowa, and that can give him a huge boost up. And he was smart strategically to focus on Iowa and to get that lead there. He spent all of his money on those 2 states. It's a smart thing to do. Unlike Rudy Giuliani back when he was running a long time ago, he's like, I'm gonna concentrate on, I gave him the Trump hats, on Florida, which was at the time like voted 5th. By the time they got to Florida, he was already gone. Okay, so Buttigieg has played it smart. Biden has shown resiliency, but at the end of the day, given these polls, it is true. Here comes Bernie. All right, Mark Thompson. Everybody check out The Edge with Mark Thompson. Wonderful podcast. Everybody check out Damage Report for members, and also on all the channels we're on: Pluto, Roku, Zumo, YouTube TV. And if you want to be a member, tyt.com/join. We'll be back with another great hour when we come back.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
TikTok, TikTok.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
TikTok, TikTok.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. TikTok. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. TikTok.
And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country.
November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream. Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information, and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
Before we eat, I want to go around the table and everyone say what they're thankful for.
I'm thankful for all this delicious food and sharing it with all of you.
I'm thankful for marijuana. I love that iguana so much.
I'm #thankful for Real Donald Trump for not starting World War III.
I'm thankful that someone else cooked all this food.
Yeah. Arthur, what are you thankful for? Arthur? Arthur? Arthur?
What's going on, bud? I can't think of anything. I don't know what I'm thankful for. I feel so stupid.
You're not stupid, Arthur. It'll come to you.
I just can't think of anything.
Hey, it's okay. Deep breaths. Just look at me.
Oh, I think I have an idea. I'm really thankful for TYT's 10-day Black Friday sale. I'm gonna save big on my favorite TYT merch, including limited edition tees and hats.
Oh, so not our friendship then? Consumerism? Oh, got it.
What did you say?
Best moment of my life, I guess, would have to be when the kid was born. Like, because suddenly that meant I served my purpose. Very close second, the day we sold Clerks. That changed my life. In fact, Harley wouldn't have been born if I hadn't sold Clerks. So that noise. Clerks, probably the biggest day, best day of my life. It led to everything else. I got the wife and the kid because Clerks happened. So don't tell the kid, but Clerks.
Drop it. All right, back in the air here. Jason Carter. Hey! Brooke Thomas.
Go, Brooke. It's your birthday. It's your birthday.
All right. Well, I don't know if this is a good segue to the comments that I'm going to read, but Lana Delsley 26 says, had to put down one of my 5-month-old kittens today. And the only plus to the day is that I'm at home from work in time to watch TYT live and not on replay the next day. And also leave my first comment ever. Okay, and that's why I'm reading it, by the way.
Congratulations.
Yes. And I've been watching you guys since 2015. No matter what season of life it is, TYT has always been there to speak truth with humor, of course. Keep fighting the fight. Thank you. We really, really appreciate it and hope you feel better. Sorry to hear the bad news. And now LaField says, I too could pick Mark Thompson out of a voice lineup. I knew it was him from one faceless line in the movie Set It Off, where he's speaking as a newscaster. Mark, if you ever commit a crime, bring a voice-altering device, or only do it if you have a sore throat. You're too easy to ID.
That's awesome.
That is totally true.
True story.
Yeah. So a lot of great comments about Facebook, Twitter, etc. I'm just going to read the beginning one. It's too long, but MedKitty says Facebook and Twitter are private companies, and they have no obligation to allow certain users to use their sites. And goes on and on. But it's a good point and an interesting point, and one we didn't make in the earlier segment. That's why I want to read it. Thank you to all the members for participating in the show. TYT.com/join to become a member. Brooke, take it away.
All right. A University of Indiana at Bloomington professor has racist, sexist, and homophobic views. That's according to the school's provost, actually. She wrote about this in a shocking letter to students, explaining why Professor Eric Rasmussen won't be fired, but the university is taking some action. Some of the views Provost Lauren Robel noted: that he believes women do not belong in the workplace, particularly not in academia. And he believes most women would prefer to have a boss than be one. He has used slurs in his posts about women. He believes gay men should not be permitted in academia either, because he believes they are promiscuous and unable to avoid abusing students.
Brooke, can I just interrupt for one second?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Unable to avoid abusing people. How's straight men's track record on that?
Hello.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's unreal how like they can't see things clearly. They're like, oh yeah, gay men have a problem with abusing people. Have you paid any attention to the news at all? At all? Okay, sorry.
One more, that he believes black students are generally unqualified for attendance at elite institutions and are generally inferior academically to white students. Now, these are based on things that he's posted on private social media pages. The letter continues, we cannot, nor would we fire Professor Rasmussen for his post as a private citizen, as vile and stupid as they are, because the First Amendment of the United States Constitution forbids us to do so. That is not a close call. Now, the provost also acknowledged that, like, because of your identity, you may feel like you won't get a fair shot in one of his courses. It makes sense. And so they're set up this system where he's gonna have to do double blind grading. And also there's an alternative course so that no student is forced to take his class. She ended the letter saying, "We are free to avoid his classes and demand that the university ensure that he does not or has not acted on those views in ways that violate either the federal and state civil rights laws or the university's non-discrimination policies. But my strong disagreement with his views, indeed, the fact that I find them loathsome, is not a reason for Indiana University to violate the Constitution of the United States." The professor also told a local news station that her letter is not true, but that academic freedom should protect him even if he did believe those things.
I mean, first of all, yeah, I agree with you on the LGBTQ plus comment, ridiculous. But does it sound like to me the institution just doesn't want to have a lawsuit on their hands? I would imagine. I'm sorry. Yes, they just listed a whole bevy of reasons why to keep him on citing the Constitution. I get that. But I think anyone in their right mind that has some sort of like wherewithal would be like, yeah, that's true, but there's gotta be a way for us to get this POS out of our school, regardless of that. Let's try to find that loophole and make it happen.
I think she's kind of alluding to that. I wanted to ask you about that because it seems like there was a lot in the letter about if he has acted on this, like encouraging, because that's what they want, that's what they need. If he has acted on this.
Yeah, I don't think you need a loophole as much as enforcement. So, look, I think the freedom of speech argument is a mediocre one in this context. Obviously, a huge believer in freedom of speech, but he has a job to do, and if he's not doing it right, because of his views, that's a totally different matter if you ask me. And she's hinting at it, but maybe she's saying we don't yet have evidence that he has acted in a discriminatory way in class. Tenure is probably another significant issue in this matter. But it seems like, here's one way to look at it. You could look back at his old test scores before they were double blind tests and see, did he systematically score African American scores lower, LGBTQ plus scores lower, women's scores lower? And he could say like, oh, I scored them lower because they're inferior. Good, you're fired. Okay, no, they're not inferior. You made that up. You're an idiot. And by the way, that's another thing. Do you want idiots as professors at pretty good institutions like Indiana University? So I think that they could find a real reason, not like like I said, it's not, hey, we just don't like his speech. Very likely, they'll have to look at the scores. He probably acted out his discrimination in real life.
Yeah, I do, the tenure, that's fascinating. There's so much of this is fascinating. I saw people online worried that like like the slippery slope argument that people of color will start to be punished if they start, if your Twitter post can get a tenured professor fired. And so then they're like, what if I say something that's political, that's anti-Trump, and that upsets my bosses? But remember in Alabama with the black dean, associate dean or assistant dean, and he had written like things about police brutality and tweeted those things, and he ended up being forced to resign. But also there is that professor at Penn, the law professor who says wild stuff and will forever have her job.
Yeah, look, first of all, being racist and pointing out racism are not the same.
Right.
So please, I mean, that's the most important thing. Stop treating them the same. That's insane. But this is not just political opinions. So for example, I don't agree with Trump, but that doesn't affect how I would grade anybody's tests. I would, even if they came in a MAGA hat, I'm not gonna then go like, okay, I'm gonna mark him down. No, you're fair to folks. I hope you are. Any decent person would be, no matter how much they disagree with them politically. But this isn't about politics. He's saying by definition, if you are a woman, I think that you are not equipped for this. And on African Americans, he's the clearest. He says they don't even belong here. Well, how the hell is he gonna be fair to people that he thinks by definition, because of who they are, not what they did, they don't belong there? So I find it nearly inconceivable that he's been fair to those people. I mean, a guy like this monstrous opinions has been fair all throughout. That would be shocking.
I mean, and with that, I mean, bro, on the money, Jake. I mean, boom.
What do we do? We all word for word agree.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Should we take a break? Let's take a break.
Yep. So it turns out deep red areas of America are turning socialist. Really? That when we return.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not going to want to lose, and he's going to run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
But
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
Return to your shelter now.
Thanks. That was a close one. Oh, it's already after midnight. We don't have many more safe hours to travel.
After midnight? You know what today is, right?
The anniversary of the fall of humanity.
When our hubris finally caught up with us, and man's robotic children overthrew us.
Damn that Boston Dynamic. They should have known better.
At least we made it to another year. We made it to another anniversary. Maybe this will be the last one with the robots in charge.
I'll drink to that. To the last one.
To the last. Cyber Monday.
Don't miss the Shop TYT Cyber Monday sale at shoptyt.com.
All right, back on the Young Turks. For you Shop TYT fans, you're in luck. Day 3 of 10 days of Black Friday. You're gonna get free shipping on all orders over $100 today. Jeez, Lord mercy. Apparently, this also applies to international folks. I'm not positive of that, but it sounds like it. So it sounds like you should jump on that.
Try it.
Try it, see what happens. It's like one of those nursery rhymes. Try it, you'll like it. Try it, you'll like it. Anyway, look, I gotta tell you the promo code. Fall Freakout, okay? Fall Freakout, and you're gonna get free shipping for orders above $100. ShopTYT.com. Okay, quick comments for you guys. Witchy Witch says, if that professor's salary or the student's tuition who attend his classes come from taxpayers, regardless of the amount, means he has to conform to civil rights laws. Now, it's a double-edged sword. It's true, it's a public university, but that's why the First Amendment is also relevant since it's a public university. But it's a great point. Gabby Marita says, it's 2019, the whole notion that we need to be deferential to racists is getting really tiring. Here, here, Gabby. And now a lot of love for Ja'Cory and Arthur as usual. In one Trump and out the other writes in, love that we've been getting J&A sketches, thanks TYT. Squirrel Hurler writes, Ja'Cory and Arthur should get an Oscar. Okay, and last one is, Spencer says, personally, I would much rather see Nina Turner as press secretary than VP. Seeing her give mainstream media the business to their smug faces daily is a progressive's dream. Oof, but as whisper of a dream. Nina, I mean, look, there's a million positions that would be great for her, including the cabinet, but press secretary would be a ton of fun. Yes.
Really, I really like Nina Turner.
Oh, she's fire.
Yeah.
Nothing
just
but
like
fire.
for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
It's yeah. What can I say?
All right.
Should we see what we've got going on?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty cool. For Rebel HQ, Ryan Grimm went to a Warren rally in Atlanta actually last night, focusing primarily on the power of Black women in politics. And while at the rally, Ryan actually got a one-on-one interview with Warren herself, and we have a little bit of it for you right here. Check it out.
I asked Senator Sanders this a few weeks ago. I asked him about the decision that President Obama made after he was elected in 2008 to shelve kind of the army that he'd built during the campaign and instead to take a more insider approach. Would you? He said he would do it differently. Would you do it differently if elected?
Oh, listen, I've already been telling people. I'm building a grassroots movement that's going to be our comparative advantage in November of 2020. But then when we win, nobody gets to go home. Because it's really about making change starting in January 2021. And we're going to need all of that pressure, all of that energy to hold Congress accountable, to hold our state governments accountable, to hold this country accountable, to make the kind of change we need to make. We got a lot of fights to fight. And we need to pick up each other's fights as our own, whether it's on climate or gun violence or health care or a 2% wealth tax, so that we can invest in an entire generation. We embrace each other's fights. That's how we're going to make real change.
Okay, this Ryan Grimm keeps embarrassing me. I don't know if I'm going to tolerate it anymore by doing better reporting than I am.
Oh, God, stop it.
Okay, so he did the spin room the other night in Atlanta, and then he went and got the Elizabeth Warren interview the next day. He interviewed Cory Booker. I still haven't been able to interview Cory Booker, so this guy's on thin ice. Okay, seriously, check out all of his interviews on Rebel HQ on YouTube or Facebook. So youtube.com/RebelHQ, and the whole Warren interview is great, and so are all the others. And he has really tough, challenging questions. So just wonderful job. He's also the Washington bureau chief for The Intercept and has broken some of the top stories in the country, including the Christine Blasey Ford story. He did that, and so check out his writings on The Intercept. And we're super proud to have him as a TYT contributor as well, which, by the way, you guys made happen. The audience paid for all of our reporters, including Ryan Grimm. So thank you for that. Enjoy the fruits of that labor on Rebel HQ, where you get to see all those great interviews.
All right.
Okay.
So this next story, this is something that is happening in many poor rural communities. The only remaining grocery store left in town shuts down. This is actually something that's happening a lot, but the mayor of one community in Florida had a really, I think, interesting way to fix it, a pretty cool idea, have City Hall open and operate a store in town. Just one thing though, it's a town full of Trump supporters, so they don't want you to call this socialism. Okay. I'm talking about Baldwin, Florida. At the Baldwin Market, it opened its doors on September 20th. All of the employees are on the municipal payroll, from the butcher to the cashiers. I'd say workers from the town's maintenance department take breaks from cutting grass to help unload deliveries. And the people who live there flag down the mayor when they want to request a specific type of milk. Outsiders see this situation as inherently socialist, right? I mean, it just seems
true,
like the definition. But
that's right. You took the words right out of my mouth.
You know,
it's not really arguable.
But Mayor Sean Lynch, who has a nonpartisan position, but governs a town where 68% of residents voted for Donald Trump in 2016, he doesn't see it that way. From his point of view, the town is just doing what it's supposed to do, providing services to residents who already pay enough in taxes. But that's also it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. The definition, yes.
So, there's a little more. This doesn't come without its struggles, as you can imagine. Like, they can't compete with the prices at like bigger chains, so things are a little more expensive. And also, the town had to take out a loan in order to get this started. And if the profits from the grocery store cannot pay it back, this is not permanent. They would have to shut down. But it has helped. Residents there aren't making a lot of money overall at all, and they don't have the means to drive more than 10 miles on the freeway to another city just to get their groceries. So this has helped a lot. And Mike Brunig, the founder of the People's Policy Project, which is a socialist think tank, likens this to having a public option for healthcare, saying the idea that a municipality should have to beg private companies to provide basic goods and services to its people is absurd. And being able to say, we'll just do it ourselves is very powerful.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, bearing in mind socialism and all that aside, I think that the median income for people who live there is close to $45,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of money.
Right.
But the fact that they are saying, listen, we are a prideful community, that we can provide for the residents of our community in some way, shape, or form, there's something to be said about that. I mean, I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the state of New Mexico, which isn't a rich state in itself. There are towns like this that have a Walmart 30 miles away with people who can't afford to even, or who don't have the means to get there. One mom and pop shop that doesn't have a myriad of different items for the community, but tries to provide what they can. So for a community of Trump supporters to say, as a think tank said, we're gonna do it ourselves, you kind of have to celebrate that. I think. I mean, am I crazy? Absolutely. Am I crazy?
No, I wish that they would just understand what they're doing. And then that's the point. I think people get caught up on words and people who bring those words to their attention, and then they start like shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, Brooke, I do think that much like if the town hall's controlling this establishment, right? That can be dangerous, of course, because they make the decisions and can choose when to, if they do repay their loan and the store stays open for longer than expected, they can control what comes in, what comes out, who gets what, who doesn't get their I don't know, Chobani yogurts. But but I mean, I think that people in that small town just want to have what they need, and like I said earlier, whoever, socialism aside, it's a beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. So look, guys, that's why I always find these words meaningless: socialism, capitalism, democratic socialism, right? The reality is, there's a lot of socialism in our government. Social Security, socialism. This reminds me of when they were fighting against Obamacare, the Republicans were, and that guy had that great sign that said, "Get your government hands off my Medicare." Medicare is a government program.
Like what?
So Medicare, socialism. Fire department, socialism. Cops, socialism. Military, socialism. Those are government-run institutions. We have a mixed economy. Almost all the countries in the world have a mixed economy. You have some things that are run by private companies and some things that are run by the government. So the question is where you draw that line. Yeah. So, and by the way, different places draw it in different areas and have different levels of success. So North Dakota, of all places, a very red state, has a public bank. And it works spectacularly for them, for the same reasons why this store initially is working well, because they don't need to drive up prices and fees to their customers to make a profit, because it's nonprofit, because it's run by the government. They do have certain economic realities. The grocery store has to pay the loan back. The bank has to be sustainable. So that's true. But they don't pay their corporate executives a lot. They don't have to pay marketing costs. and they actually can have lower fees for you. Now, some of the bigger companies like Walmart have something called economies of scale because they're so large, so they might still be cheaper. Some of the products might be cheaper than this local grocery store, but at least it gives people an option. So don't buy into the demagoguery around words like socialism. And by the way, that's not the only example. You know what else is socialist? The Green Bay Packers. They're owned by the city, the different people in the city. It's nonprofit. They don't make any profit off of it at all. The fans are the owners. That's so socialist, it's almost communist.
The entire NFL used to be the largest nonprofit organization in the country.
Then they thought, I think we might be able to make a profit off of this. Right. So, and by the way, so speaking of demagoguery, the right wing makes it seem like the left wants to take over everything and turn it into a government enterprise. That's not remotely true. Right. I don't want the government making sneakers. And there is some truth to if private organizations create more innovation and a host of other positives that come out of there being private corporations. But you shouldn't freak out on the idea, oh, government runs it, oh my God. No, the government runs a lot of things that people are pretty happy about. Post office, I mean, Jesus, they deliver things at a fraction of the rate of FedEx and UPS. If we didn't have the post office, sending anything would cost like $15. Sending a postcard would cost a crazy amount of money. So the government does plenty of good things. And in this case, I'm really gratified to see a very Trump supporting town going, maybe the government could actually work for its people. That's kind of the point.
Do it when it benefits them. Like, you know what I mean? And what you said, I wish that more people got that, like what you said, like, yeah, like there are tons of benefits when it comes to like private entities, but not every neighborhood and city and community in America has the privilege of being able to even start there. Not everybody has it. Some places have thousands of people with no grocery store. In Tulsa, in North Tulsa, I was talking to Brett about this. The city has had to figure out a way to try and stop dollar stores from taking over grocery stores because people can't get access to lots of fresh produce because they have no grocery stores in parts of North Tulsa, just dollar stores.
Or even the quality of the food they're getting at those stores is less than what you would get at, and even a smaller step up metropolitan area, you know, and the same thing in New Mexico. I have a friend who's from a small town in Oklahoma as well, and I'm not gonna say the town because he always gets so mad when I talk about it on air, but they would have to drive 20 miles to the nearest store to get subpar groceries.
Right, and what if you don't have a car?
Right, and which some of these people did not. So
that's right. And guys, one last thing. There are some things that the government should absolutely do by itself, and there are some things it probably shouldn't do at all. And then there are things that are in the middle. The grocery store is in the middle. I would never take away private grocery stores. To me, that makes no sense at all. But if it turns out you don't have one and the government can do it, great, give it a shot. Same with banks, if you ask me. But things like the fire department need to be completely public. Otherwise, you don't put out the fire if somebody couldn't pay insurance, and then the whole city burns down. And all the things that your life depends on, cops, military, fire department, healthcare, all should be run by the government. Otherwise, if you don't have the money, we let you die. And that's unacceptable. Driving further out to a Walmart, it's bad, but acceptable, right? Your kid dying because he doesn't have insurance, not acceptable. So that's where you should delineate what should definitely be just the government. And in that case, it would be just health insurance, not the whole entire healthcare system. And what could be the government and what shouldn't be the government. Let's try to have thoughtful conversations about it instead of socialism, capitalism, right? Let's be as open-minded as we can. And it's great to see a Trump town being open-minded and thinking, yeah, it turns out government can work.
Yeah, let's take a break.
All right, we'll be right back.
We're gonna do a little thing we like to call Weekly World News. Weekly World News. I cull stories from around the globe, stories that aren't covered on the main show or aren't covered enough, and I turn it into a 5-question quiz for Dave and Steve. right, do we have our answers? A from Dave and C from Steve. And the correct answer is B, an oil tanker that sank off the coast of China. Okay, we have one answer of B and one answer of C. What is the correct answer? It is, of course, A, an airplane wing walking stunt gone wrong. Okay, we have an answer of A from Dave and C from Steve. The correct answer is B. We have an answer of B and C. What is the correct answer in true Weekly World News tradition? It's A.
Come on.
Taking the bear out for ice cream.
That can't possibly be true. We're terrible today. Just terrible.
I often think about the terror that my grandmother was under until she was 8 or 9 years old, and how horrific that experience must have been in this state of discomfort for the benefit of other people.
People will still treat you like you're the problem. That's what we mean when we say living well black. We're just trying to live our best life and trying to be the best that we can be. And we're frustrated and tired of people treating us like we're criminals.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now, these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here. This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT? Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes. All right, back on the Young Turks. We like to have fun on this show. We do. 100 decibels of booing, writes in, Ryan Grimm upstaging the boss like a boss. Unfortunately, I gotta agree. Danny says, I'm a college graduate and licensed medical professional, and I'd love to make $45,000 a year, LOL. So that's the state of America, guys. And then last one, Justin Bernard says, I'm from Oklahoma.
Hello.
Hey. There you go.
Get out.
Okay. She said it, not me. She's from there. She's allowed to say it. Okay. Justin continues, a town of 3,000 people. We have a supercenter Walmart. People from all over the county and other counties drive 15 to 20 minutes to our town to get their groceries. This Walmart has shut almost every grocery store around for a 50-mile radius. So that's a great point. Justin, thank you for writing in. Thank you for being a member. Yeah, so that devastation is not talked about, but all across the middle of the country, there's Main Street after Main Street shut down because of Walmart superstores. So.
And they're not sharing any of those profits.
No,
they own everything from the trucks that bring the stuff in, and the truck drivers, and most of the products in there. Like the operation of Walmart that is owned by a family in Bentonville, Arkansas, is fascinating.
Yeah.
I think that the 6 Waltons that are the descendants of Sam Walton, who started Walmart, have more money than the bottom 50% of the country. So those 6 people have more money than over 150 million Americans. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we're gonna have a little fun here, okay? This guy right here, Elon Musk, he unveiled Tesla's new all-electric pickup truck. He calls it the Cybertruck. Look at it. I think, listen, I am gonna be an odd man out here. I think it looks cool.
Nope.
I think it looks so cool.
Terrible.
It's stainless steel, it's futuristic. A lot of people say it looks like
crap. I agree. It looks
Pontiac
terrible.
Aztec. Remember that?
That was a horrible experiment from the now defunct General Motors brand Pontiac. Okay, continue. What?
So here's the thing.
I had a Pontiac, so I kind of liked it.
You didn't have an Aztec though, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
It's supposed to also be bulletproof because that's a very important, I guess, for the rich people.
I was like, yeah, why?
So to prove that, he had his head of design throw a metal ball at the window, right? Watch what happened.
Sure. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
Oops.
But that's fine, because there's more windows, and maybe that was just a fluke, right? Let's watch another one.
Sorry? It didn't go through, so that's a plus side.
Let's try the right.
Try that one, really? Okay. Sure.
Oh, man.
It didn't go through. All right. Not bad. Room for improvement.
So we've been talking about this. It's beyond bad. But I will say this. Okay, first of all, Brooke, no, that car looks like an unfinished concept vehicle. You will see it like the car show.
I love those.
It's terrible. Secondly, the price. It starts at what? $39,000, and it's supposed to be able to go from 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds. It's supposed to be like the car of the future. I think, and go along with me here, guys. TYT Army. I feel like that could have been Elon's way of trying to have this go viral, because he's known for his viral moments, right? Elon Musk has been on Twitter over the years and of having ways to stay relevant via social media. What better way to do that than to have the truck of the future, have that happen when he's unveiling it, and then having that sheepish remark of, well, it didn't go through. This is just, I feel like Elon's he's trolling us on the grandest scale with this.
But I feel like it would have went viral with just the truck.
Yeah.
He seemed caught off guard.
I gotta be honest, I'm voting with Brooke here on both counts. So because did you notice like the awkward it didn't go through.
And
when he's like, hey, let's try it again, the other guy's like, you sure?
Because right, it's like, I like my job.
Yeah.
No, Jake, Brooke, I disagree. I feel like Elon, he is a brilliant man, and he gets the nuance of having everything he does planned. He's very calculated. That could have been a very calculated
He's a little
occurrence.
wild too. Was he calculated that night on Twitter?
Yeah, well. Elon, I'm trying to rep for you as hard as I can. The truck is ugly, but I'm going hard for you. Send me one for free, please.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong, Jason. I thought the same exact thing in the beginning. I was like, well, everybody's now talking about it nonstop. You can't not talk about it because it was so embarrassing. So they like 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
The only reason why I'm saying now, having seen the tape, that I don't think it was staged as a PR stunt is his reaction, which was like he did not seem happy about that.
It's like it didn't go through, but a bullet would.
Well, if you are planning on buying this truck, there is a self-driving option for an additional $7,000. Maybe that will not be able to park your truck at a Walmart. I don't know, but it's not cute, Brooke.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No, I can't.
I like it. Brett had a little fun. people were just having so much fun with this online on Twitter, so much fun. One person said a Tesla truck be like, and then that's it's Tomb Raider. It's fine. It's
you got
it. Okay. This is shares in Tesla fell 6.1% Friday today.
Yeah, so maybe if it was a PR stunt, it didn't go well.
It's trying to start all over.
But guaranteed.
And remember, Elon, his main thing is, and especially with really, really rich folks or just rich folks, they have so much money that they care a lot more about their reputation than they care about an extra dollar.
Yeah.
In fact, Elon in this one said, actually, I don't know if a lot of people will buy this pickup truck or not, but I don't care. I guess if you're a billionaire, that's how people roll, right? If you're a member, I care a lot. TYT.com/join. We really need it.
What I work here? Can you imagine if you walked around here talking like that? I would be like, wait, no, wait.
No, we care.
Can we rethink this?
Yeah. So at this point, like him looking dumb is probably not a thing he's a big fan of. So I don't know what kind of a boss he is, but whoever screwed that up might be in a lot of trouble. So, but look, the point of the truck is supposed to be able to pull as much as a Ford F-150. I don't know what that means. Okay, I'm not a car guy. So like my nephew's a car person. So they're like, oh, if I had the 250, 350, 650. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Okay, and it's supposed to go as fast as a Porsche, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. Is that true? Probably, but on the other hand, we just saw that, so maybe not. Here's what I know for sure, Jason.
Yeah.
It does not give me a lot of confidence in paying the extra $7,000 for the self-driving option.
100%, I concur, but here's the thing. Someone should be fired for the windows, but someone should be fired for designing it.
But you don't think
no, yeah, and I am a car aficionado. I know a good car. I like sexy lines. I know cars of the future. As a matter of fact, I'm going to the car show this weekend, and that to me is unattractive. But guarantee we will see a bevy of those and probably multiple of those here in Los Angeles because the status symbol that comes along with it of driving a Tesla.
The danger of stray bullets everywhere.
Yeah. You know what that? Yeah.
Where are you driving from? There's stray bullets everywhere.
Nobody anywhere. That's why it's so weird.
Yeah. They don't have the Popeye chicken sandwich. Don't go in that truck. There's stray bullets everywhere.
That second ball so light. I'm worried that this thing can't withstand hail. Okay.
Yeah, I know that's true. You're so right. He just kind of like.
The second time he was like, no, I'm just
no. Look, when I come back next time, we're gonna have an update that I was right. It was a publicity stunt by Tesla and SpaceX and all those people.
I will come back and give you all the credit. The last thing is that what that car really tells me is that Elon Musk wants to be Batman. Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's something you can do when you're rich like that.
Yeah. Totally.
All right. I want to get definitely want to hear what you all think about this next story. Instagram kicked a woman off the platform after she reposted a partially censored version of an unsolicited genitalia picture that she got that a man sent her. Okay, so here's how it started. An Australian woman, Han, she says a man sent her a creepy message about his genitalia. I told him, hey, this isn't okay. The way you're speaking to me is gross. This account is for my personal use. If you can't respect that, then F off. So a few days later, he didn't go away. He followed up with a photo. And she posted it on her Instagram story to shame the man. She covered part of it with an emoji. She said, I want perpetrators of sexual violence and harassment to be held accountable for their actions. He didn't have my permission to do that to me, so I wanted him to feel the weight of having his power and choice taken away from him in the same way. Instagram banned her for this though. Instagram's community guidelines forbid posting photos or videos of genitals or content that is shared without permission. A spokesperson confirmed to BuzzFeed News that Han's account was removed for violating the platform's community guidelines, but declined to say exactly why. As for the man who sent the picture, he apologized and calls it one of his deepest regrets. He did this in a DM from the Instagram account that he still has.
Well, yeah, okay, so first of all, consent is absolutely important, but the reason why, and of course, is because she posted the picture publicly, right, on the Instagram, and they corresponded privately in regards to exchanging the pic. I know back on Think Tank we talked about this, about consent and sending. I don't send genitalia pics, but I think Instagram absolutely needs to revamp and update their policies, especially because when people report things to Instagram, sometimes it goes to someone who has to deem it, it's a choice someone makes to say that's inappropriate, right? So Instagram needs to be better, I would think, about taking those complaints and those reports from people who feel that their rights are taken away by receiving those types of pictures without asking for them. They need to update that to be more all-encompassing, but they're not doing that. And it's a shame that she was punished because all she was trying to do was just protect herself and make an example of someone else who shouldn't be doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm amazed by guys. Has anyone ever heard, I haven't, maybe it exists, but I've never heard of that strategy working.
But see, that's the common confusion. Men aren't doing this to pick up women. They're doing this to be rapey.
Yeah,
that's exactly why. They know that you don't want this gross pic from a stranger. They know that it's gonna freak you out, scare you, make you uncomfortable, make you feel weak and vulnerable. They're doing this to be, it's rapey. That's why they do it. They're not doing it to pick up women.
Right.
They're doing it to like show power over you and be gross.
But let's
to shake you a little bit.
To shake you, absolutely, Brooke. But
so she tried to shake him back and she lost.
But let's just keep it all encompassing here as well. Women have sent these types of pictures to men too. I think the conversation in general, there should be no gender specificity in regards to who's sending and who's receiving these pictures. Just don't do it, honestly.
Well, that's true, but Jason, like if you said to me there are multiple cases of men receiving those pictures and it working, I would believe you. Okay,
you're right. Well, yeah,
right. But when men send the pictures, look, I've literally never heard of one in the news or in any other context where a guy sends it and a woman's like, "Oh my God, wow, okay," I've never heard it.
This is on the same line as men who like grab women's behinds in crowded clubs. And stuff like that. This is not because they're actually they think that that's gonna give them a chance. This is to shake you.
Yeah, and so same with the guys that shot out the window, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're driving by a woman on the street or whatever, and hey, baby. Has a woman ever been like, oh, no, stop. Yeah, come back. Oh, yeah, I'd like to date you.
If you're in a Bentley.
Really, bro? Wow. They're about to like rake me over the coals for like making sure that we can include all sexes. You hit it with a Bentley comment, Brooke. I know. But you're right. I'm just saying that the message I was trying to get across to you guys watching at home is just that across the board, it shouldn't. I mean, anyone and everyone should be held accountable. And right now in my DMs, I absolutely have women genitalia pics, and they could be a bots. They could be, I don't know. That's what
amazing.
They are.
No,
like,
not me.
Hi, I'm Crystal.
I wonder what
Do you
the
want
difference
a piece
is.
Of this? You know what I mean? Like it's, but so I just think that, and if those are intentional, I'm not. Y'all know I'm not interested. But we're keeping it 100.
Yeah, but they might not know that. Though.
Right. So I just think that it just seems. The moral of the story is Instagram needs to do better.
I agree.
Yeah, and so. Brooke, I never thought about it that way, and that's 100% my fault. I should have, because you're right. I think like now, the minute you said it, I was like, right. What they're saying is like, haha, I'm sending this to you, and there's nothing you can do about it, right?
That's it, yeah.
That's exactly why. So look, by the way, last thing is Instagram. You got to restore her account. Like I understand your policies, but you got to make an exception for this because she was obviously making an important political and social point that actually I think helped for everybody to hear out. And that maybe prevented other people from violating people's consent. So put her back on. All right, guys, love you. Jason, great to have you back. And have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Bye-bye.
thought I knew karate.
Hang on a second, we're right in the middle of something.
Yeah.
So
I decided I have to nip this in the bud, because if I didn't nip this in the bud, he was gonna torment me forever. So I'm telling Malcolm a story about my first day of school in 5th grade. Went to a new school, and I was this nerdy Asian kid with bad clothes because we're poor. So all my clothes are from Kmart, and it was bad. And this boy comes up to me, his nickname was Spike. He's like the self-proclaimed tough guy. He said, "Hey, nice Bobos you got there." And Bobos it was a term that was used back then for no-name brand sneakers, because my sneakers were branded Kmart, which is considered no-name brand. So I had to make a quick decision. What do I do, right? So my initial response was to be like, just don't make a scene, just walk away and try to not, But I was like, no, I'm gonna make a stand. So I said to him, "Don't you ever fucking talk shit about me ever again. I'll kick your ass," right? I was thinking, please don't hit me, please don't hit me. But he thought I knew karate, okay? Which I didn't.
Right.
But I didn't. But he kind of looked me up and down. I'm a new kid, so he doesn't know. And the stereotype of Asian men or boys at the time was that we're good at math and we need karate. And I was good at math.
You're taking advantage of the stereotype. Most of it, you were targeted for a variety of reasons, as we discussed before the show, for being Asian American.
Yes.
But this is a negative stereotypes.
Yes.
But this was one positive that you sort of worked to your advantage.
That's right. Yeah. And you know what? He looked at me, and I just looked at him right back. And like I said, I was praying internally that he wouldn't kick my ass, because I didn't know how to fight at all, right? But he was a little bit nervous, and he backed off. He was like, "Yeah, whatever." He walked away. I was like, "Oh, thank God." But it actually did stop the teasing. We actually became friends. Like, not close, but we're friendly, and it was fine.
Sliding doors too.
Yes.
That's the moment.
My entire life could have been different.
Your whole life could have changed, because then you would have been picked on the rest of the year, and that could have affected your confidence for the rest of your life.
Yes.
This is like, that's a different movie. I was gonna say like Karate Kid, only the middle hour and a half cut out. Just the initial, tension, and then the hugging at the end, and he's like, "You're okay, kid."
Yeah,
without all the kicking and fighting.
That's right. And just to put in more context, this is like 1980. What was really popular on TV, because back then it was like really before cable even, was on Saturdays or Sundays they had this thing called the Kung Fu Theater, where they would show kung fu movies, badly dubbed, very, very badly dubbed. And there wasn't much else to watch. So all the boys watched it and they loved it. So on Mondays, they would then come and ask me for my feedback and my review of the Kung Fu movie. And I just embraced it. I was like, "Oh yeah, the snake style was total BS. But the crane, that was some legit Kung Fu there, right? Making stuff up." They loved it. And then I decided that, well, there was a very popular movie called The 5 Deadly Venoms. And each of the Kung Fu masters had their own style. There was number 1 was Centipede, number 2 was Snake. Then there was
Centipede means something different these days.
Scorpion, and there was the Lizard and the Toad, right? And and they were known as a Poison Clan. So I decided to create the Poison Clan, with other boys in the grade, and the most popular one in the movie, the best one in the movie, the protagonist is number 4, the Lizard, right? So I was like, I'm the Lizard, right? So there's room for 4 other boys. They were all competing for it, but since I made it up, I get to choose who's who. And it was this great moment of power that also gave me some level of social prestige.
Completely built on artifice.
Totally, it was all made up based on fake confidence. I faked it until I made it, right? Because the story could have been a very different story. I could have gotten my ass kicked the first day. Right. Everyone's like, "Oh, the Asian nerd dork, let's pick on him some more." And it would have been a disastrous 5th grade.
Right, but the movie arc would be then you do go and learn karate and come back and kick his ass. So
after you have to defend your friends, not that they beat you up learning the lie, but you expose the lie because you failed to win a fight with like an outsider or something like that.
Gotta go defend the caterpillar.
Yeah, exactly.
Centipede.
That old Hutus and Tutsis, the Hatfields and McCoys, right? The caterpillars and centipedes.
I was thinking that, whatever. Well, hey, here it is, the Friday postgame, the 15th hour.
Was that a cold open?
Yeah. That was a Well, they're all cold opens. I mean,
yeah. So it's a nice way of saying boring open.
You put your jacket on because it's so chilly in here.
So cold in here.
So so this is Steve-O, Hank Thompson. Dave Kohler is on assignment. By which I mean he just emails me and says I'm not going to be there. Doesn't tell me where he's going to be or what he's doing.
No, but he's on assignment, kinda.
Is he?
Yeah, he's in Santiago, Chile right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's there to observe the protests and the crackdown by the government.
Wait, TYT paid for this?
No, of course not. No, he's there visiting his old nanny. His nanny, who helped raise him when he was little, is from Chile. She lives in Santiago. So I think she might have some kind of health issue, and she's very elderly now. So he went to go visit her possibly one last time.
Right.
We'll see. So he's there for that. Yeah.
He's fluent in Spanish. I mean, most people might know that by now, but for the newer listeners, first time I heard him speak in Spanish, I thought he was like.
So this is.
I know that, but
this is turning into a little episode of Inside Baseball. But yeah, Dave Kohler, fluent in Spanish, because he was raised by a Chilean nanny who lived with. She lived in their house until like they were out of college, even. So she was there the whole time. Even when they were old enough, he and his brother were old enough to not need a nanny. She just stayed at the house for a long time. She was like a housekeeper also. She's like Alice from,
right?
The middle Eight Is Enough. Yeah, the middle square.
Eight Is Enough.
Yeah. Nice, Brady Bunch. What am I saying?
Hollywood.
It's my
nice reference,
it's a senior moment.
The Bruce Valanche of his family, if you will.
The Partridge Family.
Which Poison Clan would Dave Kohler be in your gang? The Toad?
No, the Toad was like a real tough guy.
Sloth?
He's got some surprising physicality. I've played tennis with him. And chess.
He's buff.
Yeah.
More Inside Baseball. Dave Kohler, totally ripped, buff.
Yeah.
Very muscular guy.
He's got that nerdy guy strength.
Yeah. Like very kind of wiry strength. He would be good at like American Ninja Warrior.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Pull a muscle just jumping off the first platform.
When we used to play football, he was one of my favorite receivers to throw to. I used to play quarterback. He's fast, so he would go and I'll tell him exactly which route to run, and he would run it exactly the right way, and I'd throw him the ball, and it was a very good connection. Yeah. He was my Julian Edelman.
Great route runner. Yes. That's going to be on his tombstone. Awesome. So I love when they say that a receiver is a great route runner. I mean, like there's like two things they do. They run routes and catch passes, and like he's really good at one of the two things he has to do to be a professional wide receiver. So so that's what you're here with us, the Friday post game. I'm Malcolm Fleshner, and thank you for coming along with us. I have to admit, I have a little bit of a cold, so I apologize if I cough in between and if my voice runs out and so on and so forth. We're gonna do our level best though to power through, and we have lots to get to. We might as well just do the Inside Baseball since we're already started talking about it, and there's not a whole lot, but I believe we have a video for this.
Here's the pitch.
Oh, it's just like being there, isn't it?
It really is. Being there in 1961.
Bubble gum and popcorn.
So I hate baseball.
Okay.
And I have a good reason for it.
But you love Inside Baseball.
Yes, Inside Baseball is good, but the actual game of baseball, I can't stand it. It represents everything about my childhood that I wish were different.
White people, you mean?
No, not about the white people, but look, I mean, again.
Getting hit with bats?
No, it's back to being an immigrant. So my parents were so busy working all the time, and I was a latchkey kid, and they never came to anything I ever did at school or outside. They were just working. And one of the things I was most jealous of were a couple of my white friends whose dads would take them to baseball games. And they would come to school and say, yeah, my dad took me to the park. We watched, at the time, the Phillies, because this is outside of Philadelphia, on the Jersey side. And I would hear all about their day. They would have popcorn and Cracker Jack and whatever. Like it just sounded like paradise, something that I could never have. So baseball triggers me in a way, like painful childhood memories. Yeah. So there's that. I did play Little League.
It drove you into a gang, I heard.
A kung fu gang. A lot of mischief. Yeah. No, it was yeah. So that's why I don't like baseball. But anyway, I do like Inside Baseball.
I remember in second grade, you have these memories of just random events.
Yeah.
Another kid got pulled out of school by his parents or his dad to go to a Red Sox game.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? You can do that? You don't just get out of school to go to the dentist?
Yeah.
Like to go to a baseball game? I mean, I didn't go. I was a single mom. I didn't go to any baseball games either. But my mind, and I was shocked, and I was angry. I've hated that kid ever since. You know who you are.
Childhood baseball memories.
Sure.
All through. We went to a couple the farm team games. We never went to a major league game.
Who? You and your dad?
Yeah. So I had some positive memories.
I hated kids.
And I have fond memories of watching the Cubs on the TV, the big old wooden square TV. You know, like
WGN.
Yeah, WGN. Exactly. Grew up outside of Chicago, but I played t-ball for about 3 weeks, and I was a ringer. I was age appropriate, by the way. I wasn't like 16 or something, but I was amazing at it. Like I was just smack. It wasn't confusing. I could tell all the other kids had no clue what they were doing. They were just, oh, okay, bat, oh, what? And I could hit. I was hitting triples. I was running the base. The coach would make me do stuff to show the other kids what to do. Like I had a natural, and my parents just didn't have it. You know, it was divorces and working too much and standard stressful American childhood, whatever. And so it fell apart. I only played for like 3 weeks, and I always think, and this is oh
my God, sliding doors.
To stop presenting this, but you made it okay. Wait, say again. Sliding doors.
Yeah, if you hadn't stopped, you could have been a major league baseball player.
I grew into a 6'3" guy with big shoulders. I have like a body, like an athlete kind of.
Did you get shot on a train by a beautiful woman?
I did.
See, it's the natural. It's just the natural. There's still time for you because he comes back. Robert Redford comes back and becomes a major leaguer, and they go to the World Series. And he's about, I think, 56 in the movie. So you got plenty of time.
And my dad's ghost comes out of cornfields all the time, which is great too. But I still carry this little bit in my brain that's like, God, I was like orders of magnitude different than the other kids at that time. And then I eventually played softball a bunch in Chicago. I was on 4 teams. That was like for a couple years, like 4 nights a week. My friend who recruited me to go play because they were desperate for someone, I hit some massive home runs and ran, and he goes, man, Hank, you're surprisingly graceful. So I'm surprisingly graceful.
I love there's gotta be a word for a half compliment, half insult.
Yeah.
It's a dubious compliment?
Yeah, I mean, there's backhanded compliment, but that's not what it is. It's a compliment and an insult all combined in one. It's like you're good at something, and I had assumed that you would be shitty at it.
I had misjudged
because
you.
Of,
But the finish is the compliment on that one, at least. It ends with the compliment, so yeah.
All right,
there you go.
Well, so you could have been a contender.
Could have been a contender.
So we all have problems with baseball. So actually, your childhood in Chicago is going to relate to with the Stay in History later.
Let's do it.
So, but we're not there. There are a couple of things I wanted to mention. Is for those of you who are longtime listeners, you know that my son, who is 15 years old and has Down syndrome, has his own YouTube talk show, and we posted a new episode. I will include the link. I'm a shameless promoter of that, and so I hope you all go and watch, comment, like, subscribe. Leave comments here. If you leave comments on there, I will thank you on air. James, Jaimes, was the first commenter as a fan of the Friday Post Game. So thank you, James. Appreciate it. And yeah, I want to drive up his because he's like, hey, how am I? Any new comments? I was like, no, sorry, not today. But so yeah, I would encourage you to go and help
Declan,
that.
He's great. He's really
he interviews Kyle Tierman, professional big wave surfer and spokesman for Patagonia. So I encourage you to go see that. The other thing is, are you doing any more of Jimmy's shows?
What do you mean doing that?
Jimmy Dore. Are you going to be on stage in any more Jimmy Dore shows?
Probably not, because I'm no good.
You don't want to do it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so Jimmy sent me a clip of the Seattle show that I was on, and I responded back to him like, you are so good, I'm so bad. Why are we on the same stage? It makes no sense. Yeah.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. He's a professional and you're not.
Yeah. So he paid me $200 for it. He sent me a check. I still haven't cashed it. I feel guilty. I just sat there and barely said anything. Yeah.
I mean, did you get nervous on stage, or were you just relaxed and you were yourself?
No, I was relaxed. I was enjoying
That's
it.
all you need to do then.
And then one time I wasn't quite paying attention, and he's like, "What do you think, Steve?" I'm like, "What?"
Pay attention.
And then Steph, thank God she chimed in, but I had nothing at that
Well, it's easy to get distracted, and also you get lost in it's an enjoyable show.
Yes.
You got the best seat in the house. You're on stage, and there's Jimmy just being hilarious, and the crowd.
I was laughing.
Wild.
I was looking into the crowd for a moment, and he's like, "What?" And then Steph jumped in. It was great. Yeah.
Well, but I told you what to say in those situations, right? What did I tell you to say?
Something about Hillary?
No, near attendance sucks.
Oh, near attendance sucks. That's right. Yeah.
All I know, Jimmy, is near attendance sucks. That's my go-to. Well, I'm going to be doing his show on November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving. So next week in LA at the Sycamore Tavern.
I'll be there.
You're going to be there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll be there as a spectator, not as a on stage.
All right. Well, then Jimmy and I will, and Steph and I, and whoever else there will have to have a lot of on stage banter about you and identify you.
Yeah, make them stand up, get a spotlight on them, and the crowd will be thrilled to see. I mean, you're a known guy in this world.
And then afterwards, just remind people, Steve loves hugs. So you hug Bernie Sanders. Everybody after the show, Give Steve a hug. Give him a bunch of hugs. Come on, everybody. But so if you're in LA and you can go to the show, actually I think it's sold out. But maybe you can walk around going, I need a miracle, and just get a ticket. But anyway, I hope you're going. If you're going, say hi. I'd love to talk to you, and I love to run into fans of the show. But that's all the inside baseball I have for this week. So let's move on to this day in history, which you guys know who this is? I think we have an image of this gentleman. You remember who this is?
Sure, Max Headroom.
Yes.
Max Headroom.
He did the Coke commercials at MTV and stuff like that.
Yes, this was back in the 80s.
80, yeah.
And
84, 86.
And he was this cultish sort of figure who arose, got his own show. He had a show here in the United States, but he had these herky-jerky motions. He was a newscaster, but he was supposed to be partially digitized, and it wasn't really clear. The show took place 20 minutes in the future. It was ahead of its time, this show. But that's not what we're talking about. Specifically, what we're talking about today is that on November 22nd, this day in history, 1987, so that's 32 years ago, was the famous Max Headroom broadcast signal intrusion in Chicago. You mentioned we talked about WGN, but it was not so somebody messed with the broadcast signal of the first it was WGN, then it was a different station. I've forgotten the call letters. But I think bring me up the first text graphic. I think. Okay, so the first intrusion took place during the sportscast on the 9:00 p.m. news on WGN and lasted 28 seconds. 2 hours later, a broadcast of Doctor Who on PBS affiliate WTTW was interrupted for 90 seconds. Audio of a distorted voice in the second broadcast made reference to WGN sportscaster Chuck Swirsky, and you remember him?
Of course.
And WGN TV's call letters and initialism for world's greatest newspaper. 30 years following the incident, the identity of the hijackers remained unknown. So we have the video. So this is what it looked like. People are watching Doctor Who, and then they get this.
That is stupid. You should talk open with the old ones of your tribe. That is the only way to learn.
I'll get you a hot drink, miss.
Some dry
I can tell a massive electric shock, he died instantly.
The generator? Were you always so?
Wow.
All right, so that is what people are watching Doctor Who.
I would just assumed that Doctor Who was just testing some new stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Very well. People were shocked and didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
1987. So I mentioned Max Headroom because the guy was wearing a Max Headroom mask, and so and people were like, "What the hell just happened?" So I'll tell the story and then we can talk about it. Go on to the next text graphic. WTTW, which maintained its transmitter atop the Sears Tower, found that its engineers were unable to stop the hijacker due to the fact that there were no engineers on duty at the Sears Tower at the time of the hijacking. By the time our people began looking into what was going on, it was over, he told the Chicago Tribune. That's the guy who they were interviewing the story for. I cut a lot of it out. He told the Chicago Tribune, he was the program director at WTTW. WTTW was able to find copies of the hijackers telecast with the help of Doctor Who fans who had been taping the show. Keep going. The result not of computers, but of painstaking makeup and prosthetics on top of the comedian Matt Frewer. Max is a dark parody of real-life TV newscasters in a television landscape where news and entertainment were already bleeding into each other. Max Headroom was the cyberpunk on mainstream TV, imagining a digital world that turned out not to be very far from 1987. The dateline in every episode was 20 minutes into the future. By the time the show was canceled, the sarcastic, square-jawed, fake-rendered mug was as well known to the cult TV viewers of the late 80s as the Guy Fawkes mask is to the people of Twitter today. So, and I don't remember how much I explained the story in these text graphics, so I'll just go through them. But we also find out, how do they do it? How do they do something like this? Because it seems like if it were easy to do, people would be doing it all the time, and they didn't get caught. So keep going. So this is how they did it. To find a signal hijacker, it helps to start with a physical location. They're trying to figure out who this was, to know from where the hijack began, and that requires knowing the path the signal was taking when it got hijacked. To spread their signals across the city, local TV networks first relay their signals from their respective studios to high-powered transmitters on top of tall buildings. The connection between the TV studios and the transmitter is called the Studio Transmitter Link, or STL. Keep going. In the case of the Max Headroom intrusion, the theory goes like this. The hacker managed to overpower the microwaves of the STL, which sat vulnerable to attack on a frequency that wouldn't have been hard to find, as they were being sent to the receivers atop the John Hancock building and Sears Tower. The intruders would have simply had to switch on their transmission equipment at a high enough location, probably a high-rise apartment or a roof, at a place between the two studios and their downtown transmitters, somewhere on the north or northwest sides of Chicago. From there, they could blast the skyscraper receivers with high-power microwave frequencies, and by overriding the studio's signals, they could trick the transmitters into sending out their own signal. Yeah. Wow. So that's that happened. And
did they catch him?
They have not caught. It's however many 32 years later, they never caught the guy. They apparently, I read a fair amount about the story, and the people who would have been responsible for having to do the legwork of they analyzed it. It came from a videotape. They analyzed the tape and what that background was and where they thought that might have been. It would have required a lot of legwork and actual which the FCC people were not used to doing, and didn't really want to do. The guy in Chicago apparently was reluctant to actually get his feet dirty and wander around and ask a lot of people a bunch of questions. So they never found out, and nobody has ever come forward, although the statute of limitations is long past. So if you did this and you come forward, you're already a folk hero, but you won't be prosecuted.
What would be an appropriate punishment if he did get caught? At the
it's like $100,000 fine. So, and I don't know if maybe a year in jail.
Broadcast violations, that kind of stuff.
I don't remember what statute they're violating.
You never know in America.
But there are people there are other intrusions like this that happened. One was on the Playboy channel. A guy, a Christian, hard right Christian guy, broadcast some Bible verses. A guy named Captain Midnight, I think, interrupted.
That guy had to watch a lot of the Playboy channel just to make sure he knew exactly when to interrupt it with the Christian message.
Right. He probably,
he did a lot of research on porn. I'm sure he did.
He had to know the exact right moment of the Playboy because you follow the plot. Once the plot arc is peaking. Yes. So, and then there was another guy interrupted HBO's signal when they upped their prices. His name was Captain Midnight, I think. But they were caught. I don't know if anybody paid much of a price, maybe probation or something like that. But it seems so interesting to me that this guy, whoever they were, they went to all this trouble, made this video, and it's all just nonsense.
Right.
He's making fun of Chicago area sportscasters. He's getting spanked at the end.
By a fly swatter. Did you notice?
With a fly swatter.
Right there.
It just, and you never heard of this, even though you're from Chicago.
I'd never seen this. No. So was Max Headroom that the first image, the still image we started with? I thought he was a digital only creation.
No, digital only also. No, it's a person who took hours and hours to get into makeup, and then they would alter him digitally. I thought it was Charles Rocket, who was an actor who used to be on SNL. Who he looked sort of like, but it wasn't. I've forgotten the actor's name. Or I guess I actually had it in one of the graphics. But so.
Hey, the name of the actor who played Max Headroom was Matt Frewer.
There he is. All right. Thank you, Bart.
Thank you, Bart.
So that's my This Day in History. It's a little fun, little wacky little.
How many failed attempts have there been though? Because it seems like the kind of plan that wouldn't work.
They did it early. They did it twice that day. The first time they interrupted WGN broadcast, the engineers were on and were like, I don't know what's going on, but let's switch the transmitter signal or dial it down or up to get. And then they went after this station, which is a PBS station, I think. So maybe they're a little more lax, and it was late in the evening. There was nobody there to adjust. So, but it's it's one of those things they never caught him. He's the DB Cooper of broadcast signal intrusion.
You see it all the time in like movies or video games where like the villains take over the broadcast.
Yeah, the Joker in the first Batman movie.
Yeah, that's a very common thing.
In the movie Used Cars, they do it to run an ad for their used car lot. But it's remarkably rare in real life. But it's who knew that it was so not easy, but like that you could do it. The equipment necessary is not cheap, or back then was not cheap. But it wasn't super expensive. You could get it, used and relatively cheaply. That you could.
How
do
much
this.
did they celebrate that day?
Yeah.
When that night when they pulled it off.
But you can't tell anybody.
Right. Right.
But what's weird is that I'm sure they told their closest friends and no one's ever said anything about it.
Maybe they didn't.
It's like the best kept secret. But I mean, why go through all the trouble to remain in anonymous obscurity forever?
Well, there'd be a lot less digital records back then too. Like we live in a world now where emails, texts, all these things so to like get away with this stuff was a lot simpler back then, at least.
I have my suspicion that whoever was doing this is a little bit off.
Maybe worked in TV or worked
probably worked in TV or had because you had to know what you were doing to do this.
Yeah. Anybody near a camera or editing or being on a show has definitely got problems.
We're all suspect for this crime. Where were you? You're from Chicago. Where were you in 1987? This day,
nowhere,
1987.
playing T-ball. Playing T-ball.
Right. Crushing in T-ball. That's right. All right, so let's. The one other thing I wanted to mention is I think I talked about it last episode. I think I am going to revive the book club, the TYT book club, and I think we're going to do it with Chris Ryan's new book first. Have you read it?
I want to. I'm definitely going to.
So
what's the new book?
It's called Civilized to Death, and it's all about how all the progress we're making. We think that progress is advancement and is beneficial, but a lot of the so-called progress we've made is just correcting for the horror. Like we have great advancements in medicine to help heal us after all the sicknesses that we've got that we didn't have before we became civilized.
Dave Kohler read it. He told me.
Yes. Yep. Well, I've read it too, but now I'm going to read it again.
And I've listened to this podcast for like 3-4 years, so he's talked about it a lot. One of the theses is basically like rich people aren't happy either. Like even the people we call the winners of this system, the people that are getting all the benefits or most of the benefits, they're all miserable and depressed and on drugs and all screwed up too. So like it sort of explores like this ain't working for anybody.
That thesis I disagree with because you look at someone who has really achieved the very pinnacle is someone like Donald Trump, and he seems so happy. He seems such a good, he's so just satisfied and really content with his life.
Yeah, doing a good job raising Melania's son.
Everything just rolls off his back. He's got no worries. He's like a Zen master, that guy.
But so he's an extreme example, but I mean I do know very, very wealthy people and they're definitely not happier than me. I'll just put it that way. Like they have all that wealth brings a whole new set of issues and problems, and they're not happier. Money doesn't buy you happiness at all. It just buys you conveniences, right? Which after a little while become just the standard. They're not really extra, right? It's just a standard way of living. So you're basically reset to your level of happiness that you were at before. You had those extra conveniences.
Well, these are things we will all talk about when we discuss this on the TYT Book Club in a future episode.
I'm excited about that. That sounds cool.
But I want to get to the main event, which is what everybody tunes in for, or at least I spend more time on this than anything else. So we're not going to miss it. We're going to do it. God damn it! Is weekly world news. Weekly World News. When I was young and spinning the globe and Dave was rocketing around, I wonder if he lands in Chile.
Yeah,
Actually, you should have edited it so he
lands right there down on
as it's spinning, and then he spins with it. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be fun. I do have an animation somewhere on our network or system servers where he does land in an asteroid. I think I have that somewhere. Maybe they could look it up.
Well, this doesn't air until tomorrow. You got 24 hours.
That's
and I'm
true.
sure that you're going to prioritize that and have it edited in. So that's a #1 priority for you. So weekly world news. If you're not familiar, I span the globe to find stories, international news stories, don't really relate to the United States typically, and I turn into a quiz for Steve and in this case Hank, and they play for members who can win the opportunity to email us and insist that they are owed a T-shirt and then maybe get one. Many have gotten them. So who are Steve and Hank and Craig playing for today? Let's find out.
Oops. All right, it's a big deal here. I want to make sure all right, here we go.
Somebody jumped out?
Yeah, somebody leapt out. Want me to read mine?
All right.
Yeah, so Steve, yours is?
It's either QWW or MMB.
It's MMB. Okay. MMB for Steve.
I'm playing for George M76.
George M76.
I'm assuming it's short for Jorgasm.
Okay, sure. And Craig?
And here comes progressives.
Here come progressives. Okay, that's Craig. All right.
A little pornographic.
And they will keep. No, come on.
I know.
Yours is the orgasm. This is terrible. And Steve's is MMB. So yes, there's 5 questions. If there's a tie, then both of the members, or all 3 of the members, get to solicit T-shirts. We're trying to take down Craig. That's the key here, because Craig is our perennial winner. We're gonna do our best to upend him and have an underdog victory.
The Boston Celtics of.
Yeah, nobody likes to see. He's the Patriots. Nobody likes to see
exactly.
him. No, nobody likes to see you win. Craig, I'm sorry. Listen, the heavy is the head that wears the crown. All right, Craig. Okay, so let's go. Where's the first country we're going to? It is Iran. And what is the question from Iran? Iranian authorities cut off internet access throughout the country for 5 days in response to widespread protests over what? Was it A, cuts in subsidies for rice and cooking oil? B, reduction in pension and unemployment benefits? C, sharp increases in fuel prices? Or D, the Pete Buttigieg dance? And I'm gonna make Craig answer first each time.
Right.
Somebody did suggest that whoever's leading should answer first. Craig says answer. Oh, we know what Craig's answer is. It's C. Hank's answer is B. And Steve's answer is C. What is the correct answer, please, gentlemen? It is C. Sharp increases in fuel prices.
Why did I think they had benefits? Damn it.
Didn't. They do have benefits. Well, all right. So let's find out a little bit more about this story. Yes, protests have erupted across oil-rich Iran since November 15th, when the government announced a sharp increase in petrol prices. The country is already facing dire economic circumstances because of the crippling US sanctions, and this is not making things any better. The government has said that they're raising the fuel price to get revenue to fund cash handouts to Iran's poorest citizens. That's what they're saying. And if we go to the story, the state has reacted to the protests with brutal and deadly force and by shutting down the internet, but has so far failed to curb them. Slogans have tended to be more political than economic, with protesters chanting against the Islamic Republic leaders, foreign policy, and in some cases expressing support of the Pahlavi dynasty. That's the Shah, for those who don't know, who was deposed in 1979. So the leadership has responded in 2 ways. They have been rushing out cash payments to poor people, and but they've also, because of the protests, they've torched banks, religious schools, military bases, and government offices. But the government has also been extraordinarily repressive, and this is an image of some protesters blocking traffic to protest the fuel hikes. They were protested 2 years ago. These are broader in nature. Those were more in the rural areas and among poorer people. These are more the middle class and broad-based in the cities as well. And but the crackdowns have been severe. Nearly 200 protesters have been killed, thousands injured, and at least another 1,000 arrested. We go back to the story. Iran has a long history of censorship, filtering, and repression of netizens, but with the near total shuttering of the internet on Saturday, November 16th, the government entered new territory. Alp Toker, executive director of NetBlocks, a digital rights NGO, told CNN that the current internet shutdown was the most severe disconnection tracked by NetBlocks in any country in terms of its technical complexity and breadth. So these protests, I think, are ongoing as we record this. It was 5 days when I put this together, so I don't know if they still block the internet when you're watching this now, or even as we're recording it. But the one funny note that I thought from this story was a quote from the US ambassador to Germany, who claimed that the US has the technical ability to restore internet connectivity in Iran, but someone else quoted in the article seems to think that's implausible. I was probably somebody who gave a lot of money to Donald Trump, and they're like, yeah, we could restore power, internet to Iran anytime we want. I don't think that's how it works. I'm not technical on these things. I don't understand them, but I'm guessing that's not how it works. Because if we could, we would, and then we would say, look, we did this for you. You should overthrow your government. But they're not doing that. So yeah, and so I don't know if there's been any resolution by the time you're watching this, but we can move on to it. Got any thoughts on the Iran? Protests all over the world. It seems like there's more protests now, like active protests going on, than most Typically there are.
Is discontent rising, or are people starting to get the message that they actually have more power than the leadership of these countries? Is that what's going? Because it does seem like there's a two things emerging, sort of a fascistic kind of, I don't want to use the word solidarity for the fascists, but there's, in Turkey, Egypt,
Hungary,
Brazil, right now in Bolivia, Hungary, America, Europe, there's far-right parties rising up, natural extension of conservatism and capitalism. Fascism plays very well with both of those. But there's also a sort of a leftist movement too. Like, is it polarization caused by internet algorithms in a sense? Where people are bubbling themselves into their own little corners, both organically and in a manipulated way. Or, I come down on the leftist side of this thing, and I'm very far left of the what you call the center in America. But it all seems very rational and normal to me. And so when I see those photos of the protesters, the blocking traffic thing has issues if you're just to try to analyze that tactic. But you can make a strong case that the more disruption you do, the more you can shut down a whole society. That's risky, but that's also the power. The power is actually in the people's hands. So it's the tricky part is teaching or getting enough people to unite behind a common purpose in that disruption. Because it is chaotic.
Or if it's Bolivia, just having the US fund a coup.
Well, exactly, which is all the more reason why we need someone like Bernie operating American foreign policy. That would be a complete sea change in the global, speaking of sliding doors. Like the world will.
I had no idea how important sliding doors was as a metaphor for everything.
Everything.
Yeah, so.
Goop.com, promo code Hank.
So I'm with you, Hank, on this bifurcation of movements, both left and right across the world. I think that's happening because there is mass, widespread economic discontent.
Yeah, discontent with the neoliberal order, the consensus, the Chicago school, and people who are living it are saying, no, this does not work for everybody.
Yeah, so I think the verdict is in. The current system isn't working for most people, so they want to go in one of two directions, which is fascist right or more socialist left, right? And for people like us who want a better world, we're not governed by fear. That's the direction that we want to go. But there are people who are governed by fear, and for them, the message that really resonates is to blame some outside group and say that's their fault. If you're gonna just eradicate those people, then we can go back to the good old days, which never really existed, but that's their fantasy. So for them, the fascist message very much resonates, which is the reason why you get folks like Duterte in the Philippines, which is, largely a poor nation with most people living, at or near poverty, but they elect a strong man who doesn't give a shit about them, but he has some messaging that works, right? So, I don't wanna pretend I know too much about Philippine politics and society, but I see this across the world. There's this discontent everywhere, right? So the neoliberals and the elites who control a lot of the strings of power are really playing with fire, because by being so insanely greedy and making people stop believing in the system that we currently have, they are taking the risk that everything that they've done so much to cheat and steal and hoard will all be stripped away in one way or another, right? So that's a very bad, I've always thought that if I were a selfish billionaire, I just care about myself, what I would do is get society to buy into the system that made me a billionaire. So give them the basic social safety nets and some opportunity to go up, right? Because I've already made it, right? No one's gonna, I don't care, right? I've already made it, make society better so that they don't come and take me out. That's what a rational, selfish billionaire would do. So I don't understand the irrational, insanely, bizarrely selfish, in a counterproductive way billionaire who wants to keep taking, become, look, if you already have $50 billion, what difference does another 5 or 10 billion make?
Yeah.
None.
Well, they're sociopaths, but
yes,
but the same type of person who becomes a billionaire does not think that way. There's always more. They wouldn't have gotten to be a billionaire in the first place if they thought enough is enough.
I agree.
At any point.
I agree.
So, but yeah, I mean, Jeff Bezos could end homelessness and pay for free college for everybody in America, for free public college for everybody in America like that if he really wanted to, and that he doesn't. Says a lot
actually,
about
he
him.
can't because he has $100 billion that's tied up. It would take $80 billion to give everyone free college for 1 year. He's not gonna do that. So I get that part, but I don't know why he fights so hard to keep the status as it is, where they're gonna come for him.
But they don't try to even keep the status quo. They want more.
They want more.
They want more. But that's how they got there in the first place. So it's not like they're gonna have this come to Jesus moment like, oh, I should share the wealth. And boy, do they want. They will spend more to fight having to give less.
You gotta know when to hold.
Taxes.
You gotta know when to fold them.
Even if it were for selfish reasons, like you're saying, like self-preservation.
Yes,
that's something they could.
Yeah, I'm going long on pitchforks and torches.
Oh yeah, I'm just for tax. I think the tax rate above 50 million should be 100%. I don't think anybody deserves more than $50 million. I've thought a lot about this. Therefore, I'm right. No, but
it doesn't even have to be 100%.
Well, let me just explain why.
Just make it 80%.
I'm saying, 80% would be huge. By the way, Bernie's wealth tax plan is much more aggressive than Elizabeth Warren's. I think above 10 billion, it goes up to 8%, so 8 cents per dollar. Right. So he has more steps, but they advance faster and more aggressively than hers do. She only has 2 steps. I think hers is 3 cents over $1 billion. So it's 2 cents up to there, I believe is what hers is. Anyway, the billionaires, God, I have a million thoughts racing right now. The 50 million thing, just to explain, is the average person will make about 1.8 million. Average college graduate in America will make about 1.8 million dollars in a lifetime, assuming a 40-year working career, and that's based on a 2009 University of Indiana study. So let's say 2 million, right, for an average working career. 50 million is 25 times the amount that the average college graduate would make. And that seems, if you can't live an incredibly luxurious life off of $50 million, there's something wrong with you. I mean, that's an immense amount of money for any single person to have, and it would prevent this kind of concentration and warping of power that these billionaires would have. We have to liberate them from their money in a way, because it's not their money anyway. They didn't earn it. They didn't do the work. Jeff Bezos did not do the deliveries. He didn't run the machines. It's not their fucking money. They stole it from the people who produced it.
He didn't skip any pee breaks.
No, his new house, he just bought a house in DC, I think. It's 2 mansions connected and it's like 27 bathrooms or so. So he's got plenty, he doesn't have to walk very far for a pee break. He probably pees in his own mouth. The guy's a fucking weirdo. It's harder than it looks like to do.
By the way, I'm meeting with them for a sponsorship deal next week.
Oh, good. Show them this video.
Yeah, don't show them this video.
I still use Amazon because I'm a hypocrite.
All right. So let's move on. Yeah, I know, but we got a whole nother round.
My podcast, Winners and Losers. I'll ramble about this. Go for it.
Okay, our next story comes to us from where? Who knows what that is? Anybody?
Crete? No, that's a big one. Damn.
Sardinia.
That is Malta.
Oh,
Malta.
Way closer, actually.
And here's the question. On Tuesday, authorities boarded a yacht belonging to prominent Maltese businessman Jorgen Fenech to arrest him on what charges? Was it A, murder of an anti-corruption investigative reporter? B, doing business with Iran in violation of EU sanctions? C, human trafficking of Northern African migrants from Libya? Or D, doing the Pete Buttigieg dance?
You actually got a laugh out of me, Malcolm.
What?
For D.
Oh, yeah.
The callback is a very effective comedy technique, and it's also in the zeitgeist.
Or sometimes when you can't think of anything, you just repeat the joke.
We'll be doing that dance for a long time.
All right, do we have our answers? We have an answer of A from Craig, and C from Hank, and C from Steve. The correct answer is A, murder of an anti-corruption investigative reporter. Damn you, Craig. Did you know either of these? You knew the first one.
I knew the first one. This one, I thought it was A, but you gotta go with human trafficking.
Take a point away from both Craig and Steve for knowing the first one, because that's considered cheating, as you know here at Friday Post Game. All right, so the woman's name is Caruana Galizia, and she was murdered in 2017 by a car bomb on a Mediterranean island. And this prominent businessman named Jorgen Fenech has been arrested for the crime, or at least he's linked to the murder, and he's been brought in for questioning. And and he was arrested aboard his yacht, which is something you love to see. So that's him on the right, and on the left is the murdered journalist. This happened at 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday local time. Go to the story. The arrest came less than 24 hours after Malta's prime minister offered immunity from prosecution to an alleged middleman in exchange for information about those who ordered the murder of the journalist 2 years ago. One of the last investigations on which Caruana Galicia was working at the time of her death was a massive leak of data from Fenish's business. So, his yacht was named the Geo. In case anybody questions about that later on, you'll know. The Maltese Prime Minister Joseph Muscat confirmed that this guy has been detained, described as a person of interest in the crime, not in the case, not that he is that they suspect that he did it, but of course that's what speculation is. And he said that nothing points to involvement of members of his administration in the murder, which he is only saying because there have been accusations that high-level politicians are somehow implicated. We go back to the story. Galicia, whose work exposed corruption among Malta's political and business elite, was killed in a car bomb in October 2017. Within a few weeks, 3 men accused of planting the explosive device were arrested and are awaiting trial. But those who masterminded the murder are yet to be identified. So a lot of people have been saying, what's happening with this? It's 2 years, why haven't you found them? Is the fix in? The story at the time she was working on, these are people who were protesters saying, what's going on? Where we're going to find her murderer. She was investigating that Fenish, a company he owned, a shell company called 17 Black, and she had reported that his company was, based on these documents she had unearthed, that's him. That's the yacht he was arrested off of. That 17 Black, his company was due to make substantial payments to 2 other shell companies that belonged to 2 members of the country's ruling labor administration. And actually, interestingly, the information came from papers that were leaked from the Panama Papers, or documents from the Panama Papers. And so it had to do with his company had secured the rights to build a power station in Malta and it had to do with energy and so on and so forth. And later investigation by Malta's financial intelligence unit uncovered an email that suggested that a company belonging to then Energy Minister Conrad Mitzi and his chief of staff Keith Shembri were going to be receiving those $2 million in payments. So they found a connection between the government and this Fenich guy, and they're still investigating that. Mitzi, who is now the tourism minister, said, I had nothing to do with this. This has nothing to do with, I don't know any company called 17 Black. I know nothing. He's got a whole Schultz routine about it. But there is pressure on him and his associate or assistant to resign. But that's where the investigation is right now. And I just love seeing a guy arrested from his yacht.
Yeah,
that should happen much more often.
Betsy DeVos should be next, but which
one? Yeah, you have to surveil all 10 yachts, and some of them they just float away.
Right.
Which is the real crime. It's not that she has 10 yachts. The real crime is somebody.
Yeah, somebody detached one and it cost $10,000 in damage.
Yeah.
That's what it costs to fuel up the yacht, probably.
But to Betsy DeVos, that would be like one of us losing a penny.
Yeah,
really,
I
mean,
yeah. It's insane.
So Malta. Yeah, stories out of Malta. I had to make a new map. I haven't made a new map in a while, but Malta.
My dog is half Maltese and half Havanese.
Well,
we got to bring her in.
Malta is a very small country. Yes. And Maltese are very small dogs.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Like 7.5 pounder.
Not a lot of meat on that.
Yeah.
A very cute dog.
I mean, I don't know if he killed her. I've just heard of this for the first time, but let's just say he allegedly killed her, and he wouldn't have done so if he didn't think he could get away with it. So the more like the way that the rich are very comfortable knowing that they can control prosecute government.
Yeah, it's a surprise because it is the public pressure actually made them do something, and who knows if the powers that be, the prime minister is presumably not involved if this is happening. But it's nice to see when people who are wealthy get get arrested for crimes that they are suspected of having committed, which doesn't happen here very often.
No, and it doesn't. And the more that you hold rich people and powerful people accountable, the less they're likely to go for it the next time.
Or the more likely they are to try to buy up the
Yeah, exactly. Which we make completely legal.
Bifurcated situations.
Like had Obama gone after Bush administration officials, it would have created a giant firestorm politically for him, which is why he didn't do it. But that would have saved a lot of lives in a very real material way. It's too bad.
Well, except that now the Trump administration could go after the Obama administration for, the drone program if they were so inclined. But of course they're
and
not.
Bernie, if he becomes president, I mean, come on, all the
gotta
comments
look
going
forward,
on
not backwards.
Look forward, not backwards.
Yeah. We need to build bridges to a small portion of the 21st century.
But this is just, we're joking about, but this is serious. Obviously, a serious story about this woman being murdered, and murders of journalists, especially obviously in Mexico, investigative journalists. That is a dangerous job, and in Eastern Europe. The murders of journalists are almost commonplace. I interviewed a guy named Drew Sullivan, who is a journalist in Bosnia for my first episode, I think, of Reporting In, which is the now defunct Reporting In. And he was telling me about how the corruption and organized crime, they run things. They really run things all over the world, and we don't know about it. And anybody who looks to investigate
that is why we need to investigate the Bidens before we give them any more money.
That's right. All right, next story. Where are we going next? Oh my gosh, I see Dave.
Dave is already there.
Kohler, he's right there. Hi, Dave.
Floating out to sea.
He's gonna be sad.
Somebody unmoored him.
All right, we got 10 minutes. I gotta get through these. All right, so the question is: in a show of support for the Chilean protesters, singer Mon Laferte did what during the recent Latin Grammy Awards broadcast? Did she A, read a list of the names of protesters who have been killed? B, exposed her breasts with a message written on her chest? C, poured pig's blood over her award for best alternative album? Or D, the Pete Buttigieg dance? That would have been something.
Yes.
If she did the Pete Buttigieg dance.
Had she done combined B and D, maybe there you go. Exposed. Okay.
All right, we have our answers. We have an answer of A from Craig, B from Hank, and A from Steve. The correct answer is B, exposed her breasts with a message written on her chest.
That's right.
Mon Laferte, Latin Grammys. Yes, so we have an image of what Mon Laferte looks like. Clothed, fully robed. She's 36-year-old singer-songwriter, and she was doing this at the Latin Grammys to demonstrate her support for the Chilean protesters. I don't know what our nudity rules are here at TYT, so I chose this image to use this image, which so nobody has to see anybody's nipples.
Yeah.
So the message says, "En Chile torturan, violan y matan," which means in Chile they torture, rape, and kill. Go to the story, please. Chile has been racked by more than a month of protests over political exclusion and economic inequality. More than 20 people have died in the unrest, at least 5 of them at the hands of state forces, who have also been accused of torture, rape, and indiscriminate violence during the crackdown. Hundreds have been blinded after being shot with pellet guns by riot police, and thousands have been arrested, though most have been released soon after.
Oh, sounds awful.
So she won the award for Best Alternative Album. She dedicated it to the people of Chile. Go back to the story, this is interesting. Chilean musicians and sportsmen and women have been outspoken in their expressions of support for the protests, which started over a hike in subway fares and transformed into demands for sweeping changes to the economic and political model established by the dictator Augusto Pinochet. So and they want the president, Sebastián Piñera, has called for a referendum to replace the Constitution. So there has been some success. Whether people are going to be satisfied with that or they're going to demand more and demand his ouster, we're not sure. But the national soccer/football team refused to play in a friendly game against Peru, and Chile's national jiu-jitsu team, not the same as Kung Fu, but close enough for this.
Pointing at the Asian guy, huh?
Yeah.
Racist.
Players, they unfurled protest banners on the podium after winning bronze in a match against Argentina. So Chile, the protest, there's Mon Laferte. When is nudity not gonna be shocking anymore? I mean, breasts, who cares? I mean, I appreciate that she does this and it's great, but what makes it titillating and shocking and of interest is because she's exposing her breasts, which really is very,
like a utopian world would be like, she used her breasts to protest. And be like, well, don't we all? I mean, it's a Monday. Go ahead, Steve, if you have something.
No, nothing.
All right, so let's move on. Where are we going next? Thank you, Mon Laferte.
Thank you.
To the UK. And here's our question. Wait, what's our who's winning? Craig's still winning.
Yeah,
Craig's got 2-1. 2-1-1. Okay,
I'm on the board.
Britain's Conservative Party was accused of trying to deceive voters for doing what during Wednesday's debate between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn? Did they change the name of its Twitter handle to imply it was a fact-checking page? B, paying to have Corbyn's Wikipedia page appear as a top result for a keyword search of anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic? C, tacitly encouraging a DDoS attack on the Labor Party website? Or D, falsely suggesting Corbyn had come up with the Pete Buttigieg dance?
All right.
How many times is it not funny? How many times is it still funny?
You changed it a little bit,
Yeah.
which was good. I think it's sticking to it, and it still works.
All right, we have an answer of A from Craig, B from Hank, and B from Steve. The correct answer is
ties it up.
A.
Fucking Craig.
Craig.
I hate you, Craig.
Damn it.
Changing the name of his Twitter handle.
We would have tied 3 ways.
It's over now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
Craig,
sad.
Craig just took 2 T-shirts away from loyal members.
Yeah, you're a jerk, Craig. Nobody likes you. Okay, yeah. So there was a debate between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn in advance of the December 12th elections in the UK, and the Conservative Party changed the name of its press office Twitter account to Fact Check USA, and then started tweeting all these fact checks of things that Corbyn and Boris Johnson were saying. And
so
then
the right wingers there are just like the right wingers.
Yeah, they're rat fuckers. They did some rat fucking
They
bullshit.
teach each other. They hang out together.
And so yeah, so then they changed it right back afterwards. There's Boris, and it was called misleading and inappropriate by a London-based fact-checking website Full Fact. But if we go to the story, Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab defended the party's actions, saying the Twitter account was clearly linked to the Conservatives and asserting that voters would not be perturbed by the social media cut and thrust. I should do this one in a British accent. We make no apology for having an instant rebuttal to all the nonsense and lies put out, Raab told the BBC. And you can see a juxtaposition of the 2 sites. They changed the one on the left to look like the one on the right, and they still had their blue check mark. I mean, it was ingenious, but duplicitous. So Twitter said, "Oh, we don't like this. If they do this again, they're going to be in big trouble." But of course, Twitter's full of shit. And then, but the British Conservatives have made no bones about the fact that
how can Twitter not ban them permanently? That's ridiculous.
Because they don't, because they're in positions of power. Sure, if I do a tweet that they don't understand, that it's a joke, saying that Bernie Sanders should have a heart attack before every debate, like I did last time, they banned me for a week.
That's right.
But
well, get involved in manipulative right-wing British politics.
All right. So that's what they did, and they're open. I mean, a lot of us, we hear about how easily manipulated people are by social media potentially, and we lament it. We're like, this is terrible. And in the story, the Conservatives in Britain are just like, no, we got to lean into that. We want to target their anger, their excitement, their pride, and their fear. Get at those nerve centers. Get at the amygdala. So and that's what they're doing. All right, we got one more, right? Question number 5 comes to us from Thailand. It's all a wash now because Craig has already clinched it, but that's all right. It's fun anyway. A Thai man rooting through garbage recently discovered what worth an estimated $100,000. Was it A, a 45-pound piece of Skylab, B, a clump of whale vomit, C, a wooden box containing a pair of 1873 single-action 45 caliber Colt revolvers, or D, 1 million copies of Donald Trump Jr.'s book?
Wow. I'm eliminating B, although sometimes
we don't need to hear your reasoning until afterwards.
Sorry.
So you can explain later.
$10 per book, huh, Malcolm?
No, that would be 10 cents.
Oh,
1 million copies. The joke is that his book is only worth 10 cents a copy.
Okay, well, the joke is that I'm bad at math.
All right, we have answers of B from everybody.
Wait, no, I didn't want B.
You said you were eliminating B. C, so we got B from Steve and Craig, and C from Hank. The correct answer is B, a clump of whale vomit. So do you know about this? What whale vomit is? Do you know about this stuff?
No, it's the most absurd answer, so I went with it because it's the 5th question.
Ambergris. It's called ambergris or ambergris.
Okay.
And it is produced by sperm whales, and they vomit it up, and or sometimes they crap it up, sometimes they vomit it up. It's produced by their bile duct, and we can go to the story. So the guy's name is Somsak Boonrith. He stumbled upon this large yellow wax-like mound on Tarutao Island in Satun in Thailand, and he didn't know what it was. And later on, he found out the nearly 5-pound glob is called ambergris, and it's worth roughly $100,000. It's actually used in perfumes. It helps, it's a product, but it's very rare. So we go to the story. When first regurgitated from the whale, ambergris floats to the surface of the ocean, giving off a foul smell. Once it's all dried out, the smell becomes sweet, giving it a long-lasting effect that makes it a common ingredient in perfumes. And it's often described as floating gold. So that's what it looks like. And you can see how it's so treasured. This is his anyway. This is what his looks like. Go back to the story, which I find an amusing little quote. I used to be a fisherman, but a storm destroyed my boat. Now I wander along the beach looking through rubbish, trying to find valuable things, Boonrith told the Daily Mail, adding, I am willing to sell the chunk of whale vomit and buy a new boat to revive my career as a fisherman because the earnings from rag picking was not enough to feed my family.
Oh man.
I find this whole story is I'm a little suspicious, but ambergris is a real thing, and it is extraordinarily valuable. So if you come across any, grab it up on the beach when you're just walking on the beach. You see some of this stuff. They use it for it helps maintain perfume smell. When it first comes out, it stinks of it smells like fecal matter and fish and gross. And then after it floats for like days or years, it melts around process, cure whatever. Doesn't cure, but whatever happened, the natural processes that happen turn into this waxy substance that is.
It's one of the wonderful mysteries of nature. Something so gross becomes something so wonderful.
Makes me think of Skyrim. It's like in video games, there's like the really valuable stuff that you're looking for that's super rare and weird.
That's what they should call it. Instead of like unobtainium and these terrible, they should call it ambergris. It really is. So okay, one last thing before we go. We're kicking us out. We're gonna have to do. Thank you, Bernie. Is that I was reading this story and it's from the Daily Mail. The story is terrible. It's poorly written and it's like got all exclamation points, which is not common in news stories typically. But I came across this and related. Homeless man throws bucket of hot diarrhea at woman, and I thought to myself, is that really a related story?
Right. And did he microwave the diarrhea bucket?
How hot was it?
Quite quick.
Hot or not?
Was it just lukewarm? Was it hot?
I'm just like, well, I am interested in this whale vomit ambergris story about a man. So obviously, I'm also going to be interested in the homeless man throwing hot diarrhea at somebody.
Diarrhea
is not. Diarrhea is not the name for the substance. Diarrhea is the condition that produces the substance. Yes, I know, correct. I know we have to go.
All right.
I had totally true, totally bullshit. So we'll have to do them next week. I'm sorry. We love you guys, but they're kicking us out. So thanks for watching. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you enjoy it. Watch my son's show.
Yes.
Comments.
It's really good.
Like, subscribe. And until next time, as always, stay strong.